Happy Monday, degenerates. Welcome on back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I hope everybody enjoyed their break week from the big UFC. I hope everybody took a little bit of time off, relaxed, spent some time with the family. Maybe you watched a little bit of football. Maybe you watched the Minnesota Vikings defense put up 30 freaking points on the Bengals. Maybe you had a good weekend like your boy, just kind of getting away from everything. I hope you did. I sincerely hope you did. I hope you took a time to yourself, maybe spent a little time with the family, watched a movie, had some good food, because that's what I did. I'm coming back refreshed, wide-eyed, ready to talk some MMA. And just a tangent here real quick, you guys. As you know, I've got a young daughter. We watched K-pop Demon Hunters this week. That shit was good. I don't know if any of you have like a niece or a nephew or like a kid in your life that's like, hey, I really want to watch it. Watch it. It was awesome. And if you're gonna have music that's stuck in your head, this stuff isn't like Frozen. Like you're not gonna want to put your head through a wall after a couple of days of hearing it. I'm listening to it without my kid. Like the music is really good. So they didn't sponsor the podcast. Little endorsement. Check out K-pop Demon Hunters. Really freaking awesome. What's up, everybody? Dixon Cider hanging out. Grateful dude. George Ray Pro. Louie Mac Jr. What's going on, everybody? JB in the house. What is up? Colby Saul, my guy. Thank you for being here. Coming off a very disappointing week in MMA. We can talk about that just a little bit. I did do the recap episode for those of you who are, diehard enough to stick around on the weeks where there's no UFC to talk about. So we broke the whole thing down and all the egregious things that happened to me, all the unfair things that happened to me. So we already went over that, but I can lament just a little bit more for those of you guys who missed it. But first, let's welcome in this week's guest. One of the absolute favorites here on the Die Hard MMA podcast. I get, DMs and handwritten letters specifically asking for this person to come on the show. The guests seem to look up to him as though he were some kind of a god. You all seem to find him extremely sexy. I don't know what else there is to say about the man, besides he's got the best stats in the game. So everybody, welcome back. Your favorite, my favorite, Uncle Weezy. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. Always after a week off, it's nice to kind of step away for a week, not have to worry about capping fights, and kind of take a look at your process. Take a look at how things are going on the year. See what changes you need to make. I did a lot of that on the week off, as well as getting a little bit of extra sleep, as well as going out and getting a little bit of exercise, getting some good food, spending some time with the girlfriend. Had a really good week off, and we got 14 fights to come back to, man. And they tried to make it 15 on us, Clint. Oof. They tried to give us Erslan versus I was going to say the bad Tafa, but I'm not sure which one of them is the bad Tafa anymore, but we lost that fight. We're down to 14 here, and I'm fired up to chop it up with you because we got a lot of debutantes on this card. We've got a lot of closer lined fights. So the analysis is going to be important this week, and I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you in the chat here tonight.
I'm excited, Weezy. Now, unless I'm mistaken, Tafa is still on the card. Were both of them supposed to be on the card?
They were both, yeah. We were supposed to get Junior Tafa versus Ebo Aslan at 205.
I see.
And Junior got hurt, so I guess Ebo maybe didn't make the flight and is going to stay home and wait for the next opportunity.
Gosh. Dude, they are like intentionally trying to mess us up, because if they had pulled that off, Weezy, we would have had both Tafas. We also would have had Ibo Aslan and Ivan Erslan on the same card. Do you know how confusing
they did that to us before? Didn't they? I think they did that to us once before, and I was freaking out.
They did, but I don't think they put both Tafas on the card. That would have been just like somebody at the UFC is like doing this intentionally and just sitting there giggling, being like, I'm going to make this as confusing as possible for everybody talking about this card. There's no way that's not intentional at this point.
Yeah, they did it with two Chris Duncans on the same card. You had Chris Duncan and then Christian Leroy Duncan. They did that on the same card.
Yep.
Yeah, these guys mess with us sometimes, man, and I do think it's on purpose.
I don't take kindly to it. What's up, that Gene? AJ in the house. Iceland farts. Glad to hear you made it, buddy. Appreciate you being here. Jesse saying it's all about Encanto, baby. We don't talk about Bruno. I love that song. Encanto is so underrated. Pressure is by far one of the best animated songs anybody has ever put together, and I will not hear otherwise. I love that movie. So good shout. Good shout out. Wheezy, you and I chatted about it before we got the show rolling just a little bit. Both of us coming off of disappointing weekends at Noche UFC. Like I talked about on my recap show that I did last week, I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat. I mentioned to you backstage that I feel like the weeks where I'm the most confident going in are the weeks where I have the worst results. And I feel like I deserved better last week because it took acts of God for me to not hit my bets. Like I went 0-2 on split decisions. I had a guy that I bet on get hit by a car, and then Gene Silva made two of the most egregious in-fight mistakes you'll ever see. And I have people arguing with me as early as this morning, a whole week later, that Gene Silva would not have won that fight if they ran it back, Wheezy. And I'm going, Diego did a good job of taking advantage of the mistakes that Gene Silva made, but make no mistake about it, if Gene had not made those mistakes, Diego didn't really do anything in that fight. Like he capitalized, and those are the two big moments that swung the entire fight. Run it back. Gene Silva puts that man through the floor if he just doesn't get cocky and go full artard trying to spin every 2 seconds to knock him. Obnoxious, just absolutely obnoxious to lose a bet that way. So that was my week. For the people, let them know if you have any thoughts or comments closing on Noche from last week.
Yeah, I mean, Clint, it was probably one of the worst weeks that I've ever had just in terms of straight up picking fights. I went 4-9 with a no contest on my fight picks. I mean, that to me is almost mathematically impossible to screw up that badly, to get it that wrong, to get every fight that wrong. I mean, I even feel like one of the picks I got right, I kind of got lucky on. I don't remember which one it was because, I mean, I just remember the losses so much. But, yeah, 4-9 on fight picks. I lost all but one of my bets. I did bet fight goes to decision for the Suarez fight. That cashed at like plus 145. But yeah, man, I had Jared Gordon in a parlay. I had Jared Gordon by KO. And I wasn't disappointed that he fought after getting injured, you know, because these guys get paid to fight, Clint. But I said it on Stat Diggers last night. I'm disappointed that he got hit by a car. That's kind of hard to do, dude. You know, like it. I mean, I seriously, I'm in my 50s. I've never been hit by a car, you know, never once, you know, like
as a pedestrian, it's hard.
It's difficult, man. I mean, like cars are huge. You see them coming. They make noise and shit. So, I mean, I that's why I was disappointed in Jared. But, you know, when you're on a cold streak, sometimes you know that you're betting on the guy that got hit by a car and you didn't know about it. You know you're going to be on that fighter. You know, like when Michel Pereira showed up against Abus Magomedov and did nothing for 3 straight rounds, of course you're going to be on Michel Pereira when things are going bad, you know. Maybe you bet on William Knight when he fought Marcin Prachnio when he landed 5 significant strikes over 15 minutes. When you're cold, you just tend to find those spots. When we got to find the opposite ones this week, man. I'm done with it. I did enough losing this year. We're turning it around. We're circling the wagons here. It starts tonight, Clint. And if we put in the work, if we put in the analysis, we're going to check out these trends. We're going to look at some strength of schedule. We're going to look at some betting line trends, which are very important. And we're going to find some spots that are underpriced. And hopefully the fighters do their job. They don't get hit by cars. You know, they don't bet against themselves. Whatever it is, you know, we're going to avoid those spots this week and make some money.
And can I just wrap that up by saying I feel personally insulted because Jared Gordon came out and yelled at every single gambler that was upset at him for taking the fight with the busted knee. And I took that personally, Wizzy. I took that very personally because I was his biggest fan. I was his biggest cheering session. And then to rebuke me in such a way because you decided to fight after getting your foot run over by a fucking bus. Like I took that personally. So Jared Gordon and I are fighting now officially. Abdi, I just want to, if I could, I know he had a 10-8 round one, but do you not realize that 10-8 round one never happens if Gene Silva does not allow the fight to go to the ground? How many times have you seen Gene Silva on his back mounted? It doesn't happen. He never gives that up. Did it happen in round two? No, because he said, I need to never go to the ground ever again, and he made sure it never happened. He slipped up once, and Diego Lopez took advantage of it. Yes, Diego's a better grappler than Gene Silva is, but that 10-8 round should have never taken place. And a locked-in Gene Silva, again, obviously, does not allow that to happen. So that's kind of my point. Like, I know he's good. I know he's good, but he only got that because Gene Silva's an idiot. At any rate, let's get into UFC Perth, everybody. First and foremost, please check out the sponsor of the show. That is Cloud Bet, everybody. Link in the description below. Use promo code DieHardMMA. I've been talking about this, you guys, for a couple of weeks. You've only got one more week to enter, Wheezy. They are giving away tickets to UFC PFL. I apologize. PFL Abu Dhabi. 2 VIP tickets sitting cage side at PFL Abu Dhabi, including after party invites to go hang out with Paul Hughes, signed gloves from Paul Hughes, and an exclusive merch kit. Every $10 you bet when you use promo code Hughes after signing up is going to be an entry into this giveaway contest, and it's happening October 3rd. So you've got a very short amount of time to get in here. Please click the link in the description below. Get signed up. Enter into that contest because I want one of you guys to go to Abu Dhabi and sit at the PFL. It would be cool to have one of my viewers actually win the dang thing. So please go check that out. Hit the link in the description below. Get signed up. And then let's get after it, everybody. First fight of the night, UFC Perth. We're talking Brando Peričić. I'm not sure how to pronounce. Peričić. Oh, it's
yeah,
an
itch.
H.
It's going to end with that itch. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Peričić.
The little squiggles always get me. Okay. Good to know. And then he's taking on Elisha Ellison. Guys, this is a literal Dana White's Contender Series fight.
Yep.
It is not like, hey, it's so bad, it should be on. No, it's a Dana White's Contender Series fight. They canceled this fight off of this season's Dana White's Contender Series and moved it onto this card to fill a spot. So brace yourselves. You've got a couple of unknown guys who have 5 professional fights to their name, which, Wheezy, I have ranted and raved about the UFC. It is the year 2025, man. We have got a well-built-out regional scene on every single continent this planet has to offer. Nobody, and I mean nobody, like outside of kickboxing champions like Alex Pereira, you should not be getting to the UFC with 5 professional MMA fights anymore. It's not a thing that should happen. Both these guys are extremely light on experience. So this fight is probably going to be a shit show. Brando is 31 years old. And, man, he's a city kickboxing guy. That's the flavor of the week. That's probably why this fight got moved on to this card. It's a city kickboxing card. He fought 2 0-0 guys back-to-back, Wheezy, to get his opportunity on Dana White's Contender Series. I mean, we talk about padded records and soft fights. This guy's got about as soft of a record as you could possibly have. Now, he does seem to be really long, really rangy. He likes to kick, or he's all in or he's all out. Then he's clinching, right? He does have a long right cross. He does start pretty fast. He tends to be bouncy on his feet. He loads up on that right hand. He does have kind of a spearing step in power jab and throws the 1-2 to kind of smash you into the fence and then lean up against you and clinch you against the fence. And Wheezy, I'm worried about his cardio. This is a guy who looks like he's exhausted and then he gets the finish. Like he's fighting bums on the regional scene and none of them can offer any kind of resistance. And right when he puts them down, that's when he's kind of huffing and puffing. His mouth looks like it's hanging open. I don't think he's got 15 minutes. I really don't. So I'm worried about him getting extended by, frankly, anybody. Elisha is 28 years old. He's really big. He's really strong. He fires very straight punches, but he just mauls people physically. Wheezy, this guy is just raw, brawling, unfiltered power. Like, that's all he does. When he gets people down on the ground, he just smashes, man. I mean, GSP style knees to the body. Like, he'll empty the tank trying to get people out of there. Another one who I don't think he has a plan B, right? Like, if he doesn't crush you and absolutely just devastate you with his power, he doesn't really know what he's doing. So skill edge absolutely on the side of Brando, in my opinion. Physicality edge on the side of Elisha. I am scared for both guys. Gas tanks. This should absolutely be a under 1.5 type of spot on a Dana White's Contender Series. But because we're on a regular non-Contender Series card, I don't know if they're going to get the speech beforehand. Right? I don't know if Dana's going to go in their locker rooms and be like, hey, you got to show me something in round 1, boys. Like, we might get a slower pace than they would otherwise on the Contender Series because they're already signed now to the UFC. This is a complete stay away from me, Wheezy. I'm not touching this thing with a 10-foot pole. Brando is a minus 220 favorite right now. So big chalk here on Brando for a guy with just 5 professional fights. I'm going to pick him to win, Wheezy. I'll say that he can overcome the brawling nature of Elisha, but there's no heart in that, zero confidence. And the under 1.5 is already up to minus 230. So it's violence or nothing for me, and it's going to be nothing. What do you make of this fight, man?
Yeah, I mean, so with Peričić, you got a guy that with 5 professional fights that have lasted a grand total of 14 minutes. So 2.8 minute average fight time. And for Elijah Ellison, 6 professional fights lasting a grand total of 15.1 minutes or a 2.5 minute average fight time. I think we've seen maybe both of these guys get out of round 1 once, I believe. I believe Peričić's fight against Randall Raymond went to the second round, and I believe that Elijah Ellison's fight against Dave Pearson went to the second round. Both of those fights were losses for Peričić and Ellison. Yeah, neither one of these guys has really got good wins on their resume, I would say. I mean, Elijah Ellison was fighting in a promotion called Micallef Fight Night in the Pacific Northwest, and Peričić has been around the Australian regional scene, obviously being from a New Zealand training in New Zealand at City Kickboxing. So with Peričić, you got a couple of things. He's 6 inches taller. We like that. We like the fact that he's going to be fighting much closer to home than Elijah Ellison is. The flight from, Auckland to Perth isn't nearly as bad as the flight from, say, Washington to Perth. So you're going to have big travel here for Ellison. And I kind of feel like Brando is going to be much, much better on the feet here. He's got a legitimate kickboxing background. Well, I feel like Ellison's more of like an athletic, explosive freak who can kind of take the fight wherever he feels like he's most comfortable. But I think Elijah Ellison's probably going to be looking to grapple here because when you're 5'11" going up against a 6'5" guy, you're not going to really want to hang around at kickboxing range against that guy. You're probably going to need to close the distance and either win minutes in the clinch or win minutes with your grappling. But I think that Peričić is a well-rounded fighter from what I've seen on his tape. And while Peričić and Ellison don't really have good opponents on their resume, if you go back and you watch the Peričić versus Randall Raymond fight, you'll see that Peričić can be in there against a higher level regional scene fighter like Raymond, a guy who at the time had 16 professional fights on his resume and was the Hicks Fight Series heavyweight champion. And so he's a good fighter and a good grappler. And if Raymond didn't have a really good gas tank, he wouldn't have been able to survive through what Peričić was putting him through. So I'm leaning to the Peričić side here as well. But like I said, these guys have got a combined 11 fights that have lasted a grand total of 29 minutes. And both of them are making their UFC debut. Neither one of them is really coming into the UFC with any high-level regional scene wins on their resume either. So I don't want to lay minus 220 on an under 1.5 here. I don't want to lay minus 200, minus 220 on Peričić. So yeah, I'm probably just going to be staying away and enjoying what's going to be a really fun fight between these two heavyweights.
Should be a good one to start off the night. Hopefully we don't get the sloppy heavyweight, lay against the fence thing after 7 minutes into the fight, because that would be sad for everybody. But totally in the range of outcomes here. Shout out Dravi saying, I heard Peričić was going to get the sub, which actually Joseph in the chat backs up and says, I heard Gogo Plata is free money. Now that is a call, man. If he hits Gogo Plata, Joseph, we're going to come back around here and I'm going to ask you what you know. By the way, Wheezy, I agree, because Joseph says you've got the absolute goat hairline at the age of 50. You guys don't got to talk to me. Like, I need a haircut, by the way. Like, this was all supposed to get trimmed up today, but the wait was way too long. Unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to pull it off. I'll get one tomorrow. But look, I look like a drunk chia pet right now. But you're talking hairlines with me. Wheezy's got some genetics that his family and his lineage will thank him for generations to come. Luana, Dread, Carolina, and she takes on Michelle Montague, the wild one herself. And it was funny, Wheezy, I was going back through and looking at my notes, and it was crazy because I was like, Michelle Montague, like, I know that name. We cashed a bet on her, you guys, but we didn't cash a bet on her the way you think we would. She's a PFL transplant. I totally spaced the fact that this girl is coming from the PFL now into the UFC. She's from American Top Team, and Wheezy, she's 6-0 undefeated. All 6 wins come by finish. All 6 finishes are submissions. All 6 submissions are the rear naked choke. This woman is a monster grappler. She has been a specialist so far in her professional career, and now she makes her debut in the UFC, taking on one of my favorite dogs in Luana, Dread Carolina. Dread is 11-4. She is 32 years old. She's got a lot of fight experience in the UFC at this point now. She's on a 3-fight winning streak. But dang, Wheezy, it is tough sledding when you kind of look back at what she's done. Now, she's got this really weird win over Lupita Godinez back in 2021. Outside of that, it's Poliana Botelho via split. It's a loss to Molly McCann by knockout, which just looks terrible considering Molly's boxing these days. A split decision loss to JoJo Wood. I will still go back to the well that I think she deserved to get the nod there on that fight, but either way, it was a close competitive fight, a spamming volume fest with a woman who ended up getting retired immediately after, so still kind of not a great look. And then she beat Ivana Petrovic, she beat Juliana Stolyarenko, who is cut, she beat Lucy Pudilova, who is cut. So, I mean, her wins and her losses are all coming against women who are no longer in the UFC. She's got a decent record. She's got good experience, but she's hanging on by a thread, my man. It's true. She's put a lot of effort into her grappling. You can see the evolution over the course of her UFC career, that she has gotten better with her grappling, but she likes to kickbox. She likes to put up volume. She likes her knees and elbows. And unfortunately, that also means that she likes to clinch. She likes to get in close. She likes to be tight with her opponents. And going up against someone like Michelle Montague, who just feels like she's a caliber above as an athlete in physicality. I just think that they're going to end up clinching, and we will find ourselves on the mat. And when that happens, I don't think I can trust Luana to survive with this kind of a beast. So Michelle Montague, I'm going to have to pick against my baby. You guys know I love Dread Carolina, especially if we're getting dog money on her. She's about plus 180 or so right now. And I don't like laying chalk on debutantes. I did that just last week and I got crushed for it. That's why we have the rule. We try not to do that. But I do feel like this is one where this is a solid enough prospect. She probably does what she does and dominates the grappling in this fight, Wheezy. So I got to pick Montague here. But it's another one where I'm not excited enough to chalk up and lay a 2-to-1 price tag against another UFC newbie. Yeah.
Betting newbies at chalk is not for the faint of heart, because I wish I had a list. I've been meaning to make a list of top-notch UFC fighters that lost their debut fights.
There's a lot
and
of them.
It goes to show you, and I mean, like the list, I'm telling you, it's dozens of fighters long that you would be like, whoa, these are some really good fighters, and it's very difficult to win your first UFC fight. It's the biggest fight of your life. This is a fight where nerves matter, where preparation matters. And there's a couple things here that worry me about Montague. Number one, her striking is god awful. It's god awful. If she doesn't get takedowns, she's not beating anybody at this level. Like somebody like Montserrat Rendon is gonna box up Michelle Montague. And she's like boxing up nobody.
Don't talk to me about Montserrat Rendon.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. But
Alex Pereira's would-be sister that we all screwed up on. Me and Dom Cruz mixed that one up. So
no, it was not her sister. That is for sure. Anyway, look, Montague. First of all, here's one giant problem. You know that she's never fought at bantamweight in her entire pro career, not once. She's fought at lightweight. Her professional debut was up at 155 pounds, and all of her subsequent fights at 145. And you can look through an amateur career that spans between 2015, my man, and 2022.
I did not catch that, Wheezy. That's a hell of a note right there.
Oh, you got to look at these things. You got to look at these things because there's a lot of reasons to short debutantes at Juice. It's just one of those things. I'm sure if you were to model that you would find that there's an ROI on that's statistically significant. But that, like I say, that I don't have that information in front of me anyway. But this woman has never fought. Her second amateur fight back in 2016 was fought at a catch weight of 176 pounds. And her amateur career started at 155, slating back to 2015. So she's never once had a fight where she weighed in at 136 pounds or less. As a matter of fact, she's probably never weighed in at less than 145 in her entire professional career. So you got a UFC debut and you got a situation where you're going to have the toughest weight cut of your life, and you're doing it against somebody that is going to be a better striker than you.
Oh,
that
Wheezy, don't talk me into my girl.
I don't know if I'm betting Luana Carolina here because, like I said, hey, look, the other thing we can't forget about here is that Luana Carolina has never fought at 135 in the UFC either. So she's been a career flyweight. Now she's moving up to 135 to fight somebody that's never fought at 135 before, but has fought at 145 and 155. So when we're talking about somebody with a grappling advantage like Michelle Montague has here, that physicality is going to loom very large.
Just a little.
Yeah. But like I said, what if there are nerves? What if there's an adrenaline dump? And what if that weight cut kicks her ass? She might look really good in round one, but then there could be that adrenaline. If you adrenaline dump, your rounds 2 and 3 are going to look really bad. And that's happened to a number of fighters as well. Remember Jacqueline Amorim in her debut at Juice against Sam Hughes? Where she adrenaline dumped? Yeah.
I faded the shit out of her.
Sam Hughes
easily. If I could tangent, support our girl Sam Hughes, you guys. Merch dropped today. Check her out on Instagram. I love me some Sam Hughes. Sorry, go for it.
I like Sam Page, and that was a great win last time out getting the finish. But
she deserves a lot.
So this is one that's got a lot of issues behind the statistics here. But also, some key statistics is that Luana Carolina is defending takedowns at a 71% clip, but she's allowing 25% control time to her opponents. So for somebody that you're looking to keep the fight standing, we've got a 9-fight sample size of about 2 hours of UFC octagon time for Luana Carolina at 125 pounds, not at 135, but at 125. And only 56% of her octagon time is spent at distance striking range. That's less than the divisional average. That means that Montague is going to have opportunities to get this into the grappling exchanges and win some of those minutes there and potentially win moments if she's able to get to the back, find the rear naked choke. But this is one that I would really suggest that people who are really trying to avoid making bad bets on fights that you don't necessarily need to be neck deep before the weigh-ins. This is one of them. Wait for the weigh-ins. Wait to see how Michelle Montague looks at 135, because we've never seen her there before. And we also want to see how Luana how she looks moving up 10 pounds. Is it going to be 10 pounds of fat that we're going to see around her belly? Or are we going to see somebody that after a 1 year and 1 month layoff that Luana Carolina's on here, are we going to see that she maybe has filled in to the weight class, that she looks like she's a better physical specimen up at 135 than she was at 125? That's a possibility as well. But that's a long speech to say that I'm waiting for weigh-ins here to see how these ladies look on the scale and see how they look when they match up in front of each other. Because Michelle's going to be 3 inches taller. She's a southpaw, and she's the much better grappler here.
Those are my favorite kind of breakdowns, Weezy. The ones that are really long and in depth, just to say, hey, I'm probably not going to bet it. So, yeah, man, I like it. I think this is probably a beautiful live bet or leave it alone type of situations. Guys, last week we talked about, or a week before last week, we talked about Jose Medina, Weezy. Everybody and their mom wanted to be on Jose Medina. A lot of people lost a lot of money getting on Jose Medina. Myself, I said, make sure he can survive round 1. I said, make sure he can handle the grappling before you jump in with your money. And that saved me a couple of bucks because I didn't sprinkle the rounds 2 and 3. I wanted to see that he could stuff the takedowns and then take over the fight. And he got tapped out in round 1 before ever getting that opportunity. So sometimes a penny saved is a penny earned, guys. Luana Carolina could be a very, very good live bet this week, but she also could be dead money. So just approach it the way you want to. I probably will be taking that angle where I will look to live bet it if I can. I'll be curious because this chick does have Kayla Harrison in her corner. She's a training partner. She's working with her, and nobody knows a weight cut like Kayla Harrison does. So that gives me like at least a little bit of faith that she'll be able to pull this thing off going down a weight class. And just to address the comment here from Matt, how can Ellison have the physicality edge when he's like 6 inches smaller? I don't know if you watch football, man. Have you ever watched Cam Scadaboo run? Like you get these guys that are, look at Torres Finney in the UFC as an example. Yeah. He's 8 inches shorter than anybody he fights, and he throws them around the cage. Like, it just happens. Okay. Daniel Cormier is another good example when he went up to heavyweight, just snowballing people. Like it just happens. Okay. Some people are strong as shit. Top funny clips. Shout out. My girlfriend hit a plus 16800 MLB parlay. That's wild. That's insane. Weezy, I got to tell you, sometimes it's better to let the women and their intuition take over. One of my favorite gambling stories, guys, of all time. Me and my wife, we were dating back then. We went to Vegas for a weekend, and we're walking past all the roulette tables and the craps tables. We're going to get checked in. I mean, literally just got there. Like, it's Friday night, just pulled in, and she looks at me and she's like, babe, I think 29's going to hit. I looked at her and I kind of gave her a funny look, Weezy. I'm like, that's a weird thing to say. You know what I mean? Out of nowhere, you pull one singular number out of your ass. And I'm like, but I'm a gambler. So what did I do? I pulled my wallet out. I headed to the nearest roulette table. I put $5 on 29. And wouldn't you fucking guess it, Weezy? It hits on the spot. We walked into the casino up a couple $100 for the weekend. It doesn't stop there. On the last day of our trip, on the way out, I look at her and I'm like, do you want to play roulette one last time? And she's like, no, not really. And I'm like, you sure? Like, it started good with roulette. We could end the trip on roulette. And she's like, let's just go to the table and see how we feel. And I was like, all right, sure, fine, good enough. We go stand at the roulette table and she goes, yeah, I think 29's going to hit again. And I was like, say less. I put another $5 on that. And Weezy, it hit again. I'm not kidding. Single shots, $5 chips. We hit on the way in. We hit on the way out. That's been the number forever. And it was just because she had that tingle on the back of her neck. So that is the move. Top funny clips. Glad your girl hit that parlay. And guys, every once in a while, if the lady tells you something, ask no questions. Just roll. Just roll. Next fight up, we got Jamie Mullarkey, and he's taking on Rolando Bedoya, the machine himself. I love this fight, Weezy. This should be an absolute banger, probably low-key fight of the night type of situation here. Mullarkey fighting on home turf, 31 years old. He's on a bit of a rough road right now. Back-to-back KO losses, although to Rufi, to Nasrat, like guys with crazy power, guys that are crazy explosive, crazy fast. He's getting caught by them. It is what it is. My whole thing with Jamie Mullarkey is he's very well-rounded. He's very skilled. He likes to mix in the grappling. He's a tough out. He's not an easy guy to beat. The floor just gives out on his chin sometimes, man. Like, it looks like he's doing fine. He'll be like spitting blood and teeth out and looks like he can take the sink, and then one spot, just bank, and he's done. That's it. It's over. Like, you can never expect when this guy's chin is going to fold, and it just does. So I can never trust him. I want Jamie Mullarkey at dog odds if I'm ever betting on him, and probably not even then. That's kind of where I'm at. I feel like he might be shot at this point. Rolando Bedoya, 14-4, 28 years old. And I loved this kid. Absolutely loved this kid when he made it to the UFC. He's gone out there and he's fought his ass off. 3 tough fights in a row, and he's 0-3. Loses a split to Chaos Williams in his UFC debut, which I felt like there was a very strong argument for him to win. Loses to Song Kenan. I mean, he's got a chin on him. He's like the exact opposite of Jamie Mullarkey. He just doesn't stop coming. And then the one that really got me was the loss to Jai Herbert. I've never been the biggest Jai Herbert fan. I don't really truly believe in Jai Herbert. Now that he's 37 years old, I'm like, man, he should not be winning UFC fights against prospects at this stage of his career. But he keeps finding a way to, and he stunned me beating Rolando Bedoya in his last fight. I mean, this kid's back is up against the wall. The UFC doesn't really have any other Peruvian prospects. Their other Peruvian prospect just took an L and cost me some money a couple weeks ago. So the chips are all in from the UFC. And I like this kid. I really like this kid. Gosh dang, man. Weezy, I don't know if I can go to the well again. I've lost so much money betting on this kid. I guarantee if I pass on this fight, he will win this one. It's that kind of a fight for me. We're looking at a near pick'em price tag, a veteran in Jamie Mullarkey on his home turf, a young up-and-coming exciting prospect in Bedoya who's really having a hard time developing at the UFC level. Pick'em price tag. Yikes. I'm going to say Rolando Bedoya just because I want to be on the other side of the chin of Jamie Mullarkey. But at this stage, it would not shock me at all if he found a way to lose this and Jamie was able to pull off this win, man. Talk to me, Weezy. What do you like about this one?
Yeah, I think the market's got it right as a pick'em, because I think that this is one of those fights where you can find more reasons to bet against both guys than you can to bet on them, right? With Bedoya, you could say something like, oh man, I mean, like, this guy doesn't really have power. He's extremely hittable. His distant striking defense is just ridiculous. And it's not even his fault. When your head is 3 times the size of a normal human head, you're going to be hittable. It's just that's how nature works. It's like throwing a tennis ball at a brick wall. You're going to hit it every time, So Bedoya is just not very good. He's 0-3 at the UFC level. Doesn't really possess much of a grappling threat. He's going to throw volume. He's going to stay in front of you, and he's going to kind of drag you into a war. And if you are not durable, if you don't have solid conditioning, Rolando can start really kind of being like a snowball rolling downhill, and he can get better as the fight goes on. And Mullarkey is a well-rounded fighter. He's a good wrestler. He's got decent boxing. He's got 11 fights at the UFC level. He's fought some good names. He's got a win over Michael Johnson. I don't think he won that fight, but that was a close enough fight that there was debate as to who won it, and he got the nod there. Win over Makdessi, win over Prado. He's got some decent UFC wins, and he's had some tough UFC opponents as well. Guys like Jalen Turner, guys like Naimov and Haqparast, Mauricio Hufi. The thing is, he's been knocked out 6 times. 6 times in his career. I like betting against people who have lost in a particular way, whether it be submission or KO more than once at the UFC level. It indicates a trend, and it oftentimes is something that coaches are going to recognize as well and game plan towards the weakness of their opponent. And Mullarkey's a guy whose chin is in serious question, but Bedoya's isn't. This guy he eats shots like an arepa and just keeps coming forward. He's not going to stop. So I think that Bedoya is the much more durable fighter here. He's got the much more reliable chin. He throws a lot more volume as well.
Reminds me of a young Forrest Griffin.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with a bigger head, you know, but like, yeah, he can take it, man. He absorbs a lot of shots and he keeps coming forward. The conditioning is really good. The durability is really good, and the output is really good. Nothing else is that great, though. There's not a lot of power there. There's not a lot of offensive grappling threat, and he does fight on kind of thin margins because his defense is bad. So I think that Mullarkey could find different ways to win the minutes of this fight. It's just that is he gonna lose a moment, you know? And he's taken time off. That's the thing. He's taken a year and 4 months away from the cage since Mauricio Hufi served him, you know, with a bad knockout. So Bedoya has been away from the cage for over a year and a month. So this is, you know, minus 115 on both sides. Bedoya hasn't won a fight since he got a win over Pablo El Perro Dorta in a Peruvian regional scene promotion.
Wow.
Jamie Mullarkey last got a win over John Makdessi. And I'm here to tell you, I bet on John Makdessi in that fight, and Jamie Mullarkey did not win that fight. So, I mean, you can make an argument that he's lost his last 4 fights and that his previous win before that was against Francisco Prado, who was 21 years old and took that fight on less than a week's notice and flew from Argentina to Australia and then proceeded to do jack shit for the entire 15 minutes, not throwing any offense. So, yeah, there's big questions on both sides. And when both fighters are on over a 1-year layoff, to me, I'm fine sitting back and not gambling on this fight. You know, I think one of the things I'm on a losing streak right now. I know, Clint, you're having a rough year.
That's understandable.
Yeah. The best favor that we can do ourselves is identify fights like this and not put our fucking money on them. This is the variance that where our reads don't mean shit. You know, all of our in-cage reads and tape study is based on fights that are over a year old at this point. You know, and I think that these are the kind of fights that this is going to be a really fun fight. I think these guys are going to stand in front of each other and bang and have a really good time. I think they're going to land a lot of big shots. I think the crowd's really going to enjoy it. But I think that the line is right where it needs to be. I think this should be a pick 'em. And while Mullarkey's more well-rounded, he's fighting at home in Australia. He's on a long layoff and his chin is in serious fucking question. And it's not like when he's winning decisions, he's winning them on these fat margins. You know, he's winning on extremely thin margins. He arguably lost the Makdessi fight. He arguably lost the Michael Johnson fight. And those are 2 of his 5 UFC wins. And he arguably won the Fares Ziam fight, which he lost. You know, so this is a guy who's fighting on thin margins as well. So, yeah, no thank you. No thank you for this one.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, Wheezy, is that when you're dealing with a situation like this, personally, I will tend to side with the younger fighter who you'd expect to be improving. Long layoffs for a veteran who's trying to recover some of that durability versus a long layoff for a kid who's still filling out into his own and still growing as a fighter and developing. I would count on the upside for the young fighter. Now, unfortunately, the last couple times I've said that, it is blown up right in my face because the prospect ended up being extremely disappointing and still finding a way to lose. So you can't even count on that, but that's the way I would lean. So that's what's getting me kind of to the Bedoya side of things. Is I couldn't agree with you more, but I will edge ever so slightly with the durability and the youth. That's the side I would look at for a pick'em style price tag. AJ in the chat saying, you have a gambling problem, Clint. And AJ, I would say it's less of a problem and it's more of a lifestyle, baby. Next fight up, we have got Colby Thickenese taking on Josias Musasas, the KO wizard himself. Oh, my Lord. Wheezy, I have thoughts. This one is an extremely interesting fight with these two guys here. Colby is 26 years old. His UFC debut was against Toporia's little bro, right? The lesser Topuria. And he went the full 15 minutes. You know, everybody talked about the Topuria power coming into that fight. And he managed to stave it off for a full 15 minutes. He's very tall. He's very lanky. He's very aggressive with his takedowns and his grappling, which seems a little kind of opposed to the frame that he has. It's a weird style that he's got, but he likes to back you off at range with kicks. His left body kick is extremely snappy, and sometimes he'll take that up the middle and he'll flash the knee. I really like his footwork. I think Colby's got some decent raw skills. He just couldn't get Topuria to back off of him. It was a power thing. He couldn't stop the little monster from moving forward, and he lost that fight. Josias on the other side of things, 26 years old, 8-1. He got fraud checked so hard. We see in his UFC debut, he got Carlos Vera, of all people, and he got tapped out in round 1. It was incredibly disappointing. Like, this kid is just a miniature little Francis Ngannou. And I mean that all the way down to like the bite down on the mouthpiece, close your eyes and swing with everything you've got style. Like, that's all he does. There's no rhyme or reason. He is raw. He is so incredibly raw. And he's reckless. I mean, I kind of compared him to like a Joaquin Buckley before he became the D1 Buckley that we know today, right? Like, he just wants to maul you and put you on the back foot and do everything he can to hit you and hurt you and win with that kind of power. And it worked up until this point. Now, if he gets a little bit of finesse, maybe it'll work again at the UFC level, but he started off kind of getting exposed right out the gate. And what I saw from Colby is a guy who's willing to move around the cage, who's willing to switch up his game plan and use his footwork and monitor the range and the space and the distance. Man, I still think Josias probably rights the ship and finds a kill shot at some point here in this fight, but you've got 7-1 versus 8-1, and I've already been disappointed by Mousasi, so I'm definitely not going back to the well. This is definitely a red alert, guys, unless you've got like a really, really strong opinion, unless you've got a real foundation for a belief that you're correct in this fight, don't bet this fight. Why would you bet this fight? I'm not touching this one, Wheezy. I will slightly lean with the KO Wizard recapturing some of that sparkle that he had before his debut. But I have no interest in betting this fight.
Yeah, and I mean, in your face, AJ Worse, you just said that Clint's got a gambling problem, and he just with really beautiful and an eloquent way told you reasons not to bet on this fight. And I agree 100% with Clint on this one. I mean,
but he put real life money on Vera, and he's telling me I've got a problem.
Yeah, I had I forget what I did with the Vera line, whether I just bet him by the money line or I know I gave out his sub prop at plus 1,600 immediately.
Weezy, I'm mixing that up. That's ZG. I'm sorry. I saw the green, and I thought it was the green, same person.
Yeah, AJ.
My bad. I thought you were AJ. I was making fun of AJ. I love you, by the way, AJ. I'm not sincerely making fun of you. Jokes.
Yeah, I like AJ. I was just joking, but you know, I mean, obviously, this is something. This is a low level fight. You know, neither one of these guys should be here. Josias Mousasi is not UFC level yet. He's still got a lot of growing to do. You don't learn on the job in this organization. It's just not how it goes. You know, you need to be of a certain level of fighter in order to be here in the first place. Thickness is only here because he stepped up to take the Topuria fight on short notice. And Mousasi is only here because I don't know why he even got the Contender Series opportunity. It seems like they like to go out and get some of these people that clearly have fraudulent resumes. That like anybody who caps fights would be able to go out there. It seems
intentional.
Like, yeah. And I mean, like, dude, if you go back and watch season 1, season 2 of the Contender Series, dude, they were actually looking at these guys' resumes prior to coming in and being like, hey, you know, great win, nice job. But the bottom line is you'd get killed here. So we're gonna give you either a LFA contract or come back and fight next year or something like that. You know, like they didn't give Chris Curtis a contract. They didn't give like there's a couple people that won on the Contender Series way back when that wound up going to Bellator, and you know, like Jeremy Kennedy, I believe, had a win on the Contender Series, and they sent him back, and they were like, nah, you're not ready. You know, and now they'll sign somebody like Mousasi, who beats some nobody from Georgia, you know, and then he's in here and against literally the worst fighter in the division in Carlos Vera, he goes out there and he gets finished in 3.3 minutes. You can't make this shit up. So neither one of these guys is a UFC level fighter. So as somebody that caps UFC fights, I'm not really I'm not really qualified to talk about these guys because I don't have Congo regional scene footage of Josias Musasa fighting guys like, you know, Abdel Ghani Saber and Mustafa Alazomi. You know, I don't know what the Central African regional scene brings, you know, other than extremely, you know, they're just not, they don't have real gyms there. They don't have the kind of gyms that you would expect people to be able to fight at this level right now. You see guys coming from places like LFA and CFFC and Fury FC and some of the best European regional scene organizations, KSW and Cage Warriors, and, you know, places like Brave and UAE Warriors. These have got well-rounded fighters that are ready to step up and take that next step. Some of these guys like Thickness, like Musasa, they don't deserve to be here. I'm staying away from this one. We're getting a big discount on Musasa this time around, going from like minus 900 to minus 150 in the course of one fight. So, you know, I guess there could be, you know, an opportunity for Musasa to win this one by knockout, but Thickness is probably the more schooled fighter, the more well-rounded fighter, the more technical fighter with better training partners. So if he can find those holes in Musasa's game, which are surely present, and find ways to exploit those and win the minutes and bank the rounds of this fight, I think he can probably win it by decision, but I don't think Colby Thickness is going to be finishing anybody at this level. So I think he's going to have to fight a pretty solid fight in order to get his hand raised here, because this kid Musasa, if there's one thing that he does have, it's real athletic ability and real power.
Can you hear me okay, Wheezy?
Yeah, it's not the best mic, but yeah, clearly there's something going on here.
So I want to apologize, you guys. I literally got black screened in the middle of the podcast. You may have noticed that the angle has changed. My normal laptop is over here, and I'm trying to get it back up and running right now because, as they say, the show must go on. Thank you, Wheezy, for rolling with the punches here while I get my crap together and try and figure this out. Sorry about that, you guys. But I liked your breakdown. It was funny because even though my screen went black, I could hear everything that you were saying. I just had a very delayed situation where it didn't actually cut me out of the picture. Okay, here. I'm going to switch back because I think I'm back. Check this out.
Look at that. We're gonna have three of me.
You're back. We love it.
Now let's switch the head.
You're muted, or
is the audio better?
There we go. There we go.
Okay. Audio's better. We're fixed. I will try to get the camera fixed as well. Sorry about the technical difficulties, you guys. Shit happens sometimes when you're doing it live, and I have no idea what the hell's going on here. Next fight, though, I don't have a slide for you guys here because, like I said, I just had to restart the damn computer, and I hate this because now I'm using the wrong camera, and that's why everything's all wiggly and it keeps moving. Hope you guys don't get motion sickness. Sorry about that. I'll fix it in a second. Andre Petrowski and Cam Rowston. Wheezy, if you don't mind, I'm going to let you talk about this one so I can get my shit figured out here.
Yeah, no problem. This is a fight that I've looked into fully already, and there's a lot of reasons not to bet on Andre Petrowski here, but I do think that he's the better fighter. Petrowski is taking this fight on now both guys are taking this fight on relatively short notice, but we got to remember that Cam Rowston just fought on Dana White's Contender Series about 4 weeks ago, probably 4 weeks ago tomorrow, I believe. And because of that, it's short notice for Cam, but we also got to remember that if Cam just fought 28 days ago and we didn't know whether he was going to win that Contender Series fight or not, then think about how much notice Andre Petrowski, who is from Philly or, you know, from New York, Philadelphia, or Pennsylvania border, how much notice does he need in order to be comfortable to take a flight from the East Coast of the United States to Perth, which is probably 30, maybe even 35 hours all told, while you're cutting weight? You know, so he just took this fight 28 days ago. I would say that maybe if they made this fight in a week, then Petroski's taking this fight on about 3 weeks' notice and going to Australia. In addition, we got Petroski with serious chin issues. This guy's durability is not great, and his conditioning. I've never really loved his conditioning. And last time out in the Shabazian fight, he only attempted 6 takedowns over 15 minutes, and he wasn't having much success with it. And that was a little bit frustrating because I always think that if you're going to bet on Andre Petroski, you're betting on him because you think he's going to win the grappling exchanges of the fight, because his striking is just okay. I mean, he beat Rodolfo Vieira with his striking, but barely.
I thought Rodolfo won that fight. I'll be honest.
I just watched that one yesterday, Clint. I don't know who won that fight. It was a very close fight. But, I mean, like, that's what Andre Petroski winning a fight with his striking looks like. It looks like him fighting a guy with no striking, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, and beating him by this much on the judges' scorecards, to bank that win. So if you don't think Andre's going to be able to wrestle heavy for 3 rounds here, to get takedowns, to consolidate top control, get into top position, I don't think he's going to look like a favorite in this fight, because he's 3 inches shorter than Cam. He's at a 5-inch reach disadvantage. And I cannot trust Andre Petroski's chin at all. So I worry about what the distance striking exchanges of this fight are going to look like if Andre Petroski's unable to close the distance, get takedowns, get to top control, and win minutes and bank rounds with his grappling. Is he going to get a submission over Cam Rowston? I mean, potentially. Andre blends his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu beautifully. But look, I mean, like, there's a big strength to schedule advantage here on the Petroski side. There's a big experience advantage, especially at the UFC level on the Petroski side. And I don't even think that Cam Rowston's that much better than Petroski at distance striking range. As a matter of fact, I don't think Cam looks comfortable there. When I watch Cam's tape, when he lands big shots, he uses that as ways to set up his wrestling, that he could go to his grappling. So I don't think Cam's the better wrestler. I don't think he's the better submission grappler. I do think that he has better conditioning, though, than Petroski. He is fighting at home in Australia here, and that's a big deal. But I think it's a lot to ask, because I just don't see him out wrestling Petroski. I don't see him out grappling Petroski. And I think Andre is going to be way more dangerous with the submissions when this fight is on the mat. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of this. Like, if Petroski was on a full camp and I could get him at -150 against this guy Rowston, who I think Petroski's a lot better than this dude, I would bet it. But this fight being in Australia bothers me. This fight being made on about less than 3 weeks' notice really bothers me for the Petroski side. But I don't want to bet Rowston here, because I'm not even sure that he's that much better of a striker than Andre. So this is a confusing one for me.
I am right there with you, Wheezy. It is definitely confusing for me, but I'll be honest with you. I am a never Petroski kind of guy, right? Yeah. I bet Andre Petroski one time, Wheezy. One singular time. And that's when he fought the absolute worst fighter on the UFC roster. And I got a beautiful win over Josh Fremd. But let's not get it twisted. They have tried to use Andre Petroski as a springboard. They have put him in bad positions time and time again. They put him at elevation. They used him to rebuild Edmund Shabazian. They used him to, as a sacrifice to Michel Pereira. Like, this is not a guy that they're putting in favorable situations. And now that they're giving him a short notice fight halfway around the world against a city kickboxing guy on the city kickboxing card, like, the story writes itself. It's all down to, can Cam Rowston come out here and actually win this stupid fight? I need to make a note, a point of clarity. Battle Draft may be my absolute new favorite MMA fight name. I absolutely love the Battle Draft. It's a good one. But he is a 2 times Dana White's Contender Series competitor, Wheezy, and I am very biased against those guys. I feel like if it takes you 2 cracks at it, you're probably in trouble. And let's not forget, the first time he fought on Dana White's Contender Series, Torres Finney. The shortest guy in the division, a guy that probably doesn't belong here, threw this man around the cage. He had nothing. He couldn't get up out from under him. He couldn't defend the takedowns. I mean, in round 3, when Torres Finity eventually started to slow down a little bit, he started having some success. But that's what it took. It took Torres slowing down for him to have some success. It wasn't until that point that he had any kind of momentum in that fight. So it does worry me that he's being put in against a much larger, much better grappler in someone like Petrowski. He's plus 131 right now using Cloud Bet, you guys, if you want to take a look at those numbers over there. Again, never Petrowski, especially not Petrowski on short notice. And I still have never gotten over the hip KO. Like, if you have some type of deficiency in you where a hip bone is capable of severing your consciousness, I don't trust you in an MMA fight. That's all it comes down to. He will win from time to time. But I do think Cam Rowston's probably got what it takes to find a knee on this guy at some point, and that should be enough. So I'll pick Cam Rowston for the upset, but another one where I probably don't need to trust this kid with my money, because Petrowski theoretically does have a skill advantage, and a pretty sizable one too.
Yeah. Skill, strength of schedule, UFC experience. I mean, I think he's better than this guy almost everywhere, but man, what the weak points of Petrowski's game are going to loom large against somebody like Rowston, who's got those crazy knees, like you said, that could knock him out. The guy's got good conditioning, so if Petrowski does slow down with this being in a short notice fight, cutting weight on a 25-hour flight to Perth, all these things are going to loom large on the Petrowski side. And even though I think he's the better fighter, I just don't know. I don't want to lay juice on this guy, because I'll have my head in the oven if I lose any more money on Petrowski.
I hear you, man. Whether he's one of those guys where whether it's for or against just does not seem to matter. Like, you're always going to end up in a bad spot where you kind of feel like you hate yourself. That's Andre Petrowski for you. Next up, you guys, we've got Jonathan Micallef, and he's taking on Oban Elliott, the Welsh gangsta himself. I am a Oban Elliott apologist, Wheezy. I really talked this guy up in his last fight, and it's one of the worst reads I've ever had in my life. He's 12-3, 27 years old. He was on a 3-fight win streak off Dana White's Contender Series, and he fought this kid, Xiaokyung Ko, and it was embarrassing. He was a minus 500 favorite in that fight, and I spoke very heavily, very passionately about how I felt that the one area where this man will be able to win the fight is he'll be able to dog it out. You know, he's taking on a guy who I've kind of knocked the Asian prospects for their ability to wrestle and grapple. That's been kind of a regular thing for them. They can't keep up with weight cutting from the Western world and stuff like that. I thought the strength would be an issue. And that was the biggest problem for Oban Elliott. He got stuffed over and over and over. And Ko was able to just kind of handle him in the cage, something I never saw coming. So I'm a little nervous about Oban Elliott coming back around on this one. He stands really tall. He kind of pokes and prods, gets you, lulls you into kind of a striking exchange, and then he hits the level change. I like his style. I like his game plan. I like his scrambles. I like his back tanks. He's always hunting those front chokes, and I really enjoy Oban Elliott. But these Cage Warriors, man, they just always let you down. They always find a way to let you down when you need them most. So I have to kind of have a little asterisk. I got a little pin in Oban Elliott here. Jonathan Micallef, 8-1. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. 26 years old. He won his UFC debut against Kevin Jousset, and he was like a plus 180 underdog in that spot, Weezy. Really physically strong. He uses underhooks extremely well. His submission defense is solid. He is an underrated grappler. Very slick, good reversals, dangerous from his back. He carries his hands a little bit low for me. I think some people are going to maybe be able to catch him and tag him with stuff that they're, well, I would say he's not going to see it coming, but you're going to see it coming. He's big and he's slow, so I think he's going to be hittable. I just don't know that Oban's the guy that's going to be able to punish that issue, right? Like, I think higher up the chain, people will find easy targets on Jonathan, but this may not be the spot. He's a bit awkward on his feet. I've seen him get knocked off balance a couple times running through the tape, and that's a little bit of a concern. But in his last fight, man, we talked about how you've got to take that leap of faith just a couple minutes ago, right? Jonathan is a guy who I wrote off. I was like, he sucks. His striking is terrible. He came out and kickboxed with Kevin Jousset, and I know Kevin is not like the end all be all. He's not a guy that you can write home about. But I was ready to parlay him that night. I was like, he's not great, but he's such a better striker than this guy. And Jonathan had no problem kickboxing with him when he showed up. So this kid's obviously improving. He's obviously working on it. He's obviously getting better. He threw a head kick that completely froze Kevin, dropped him, and he stunned him a couple different times. He was methodical. It was great. It was an excellent fight from him. So I think Jonathan's gone from a guy that I had underrated to giving him a couple extra brownie points. Oban Elliott has gone from a guy that I probably was a little too high on to being, grounded. This is another pick'em fight. We're going to be flipping coins all night in Perth, man. I kind of lean with Jonathan in this fight. Oban might be able to find his way to top position, but I love how offensive Jonathan can be from his back and in those grappling transitions. He might be a little too willing to accept the bottom position, which I would worry could lead to him losing in this spot. But he does well enough striking that I think he's going to cause Oban problems. And if he uses those underhooks and just that raw physical strength like he did, we already saw that Oban can be just out-muscled in the cage already. So slight lean to the dog. I don't know, man. What do you make of this fight, Weezy? What do you like here?
I mean, it's another tricky one because both these guys are young. Micallef's only 26. So for him to come in and beat a veteran like Jousset, to get that contract on Dana White's Contender Series, prior to that, to go 6-1 on the regional scene, with the only loss being to a decent guy in Alden Bates. So the guy, we've still got to kind of figure out where he is in terms of UFC level. So Oban Elliott, we're figuring that out as well with him, because a lot of people forget that he won on Dana White's Contender Series, but a lot of referees would have stopped the fight from what happened. I believe it was in round 2. Oban almost got finished by Kayik Brito. And then he comes in and he fights Val Woodburn. Okay. He gets a win over Val Woodburn. He gets a win over Preston Parsons. He gets a win over Basil Hafez, who looks like he's about done. And then he goes out there against Suk Hyung Ko, and he's what, a -600 favorite? And people are like, oh boy, really? Oban -600? Like the guy that almost got finished on Dana White's Contender Series? The guy that's coming out of Cage Warriors, a promotion that he wasn't even a champion in. And we've seen a lot of these Cage Warrior guys not translate well to the UFC. So yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions on both guys. They're both 6 feet tall. They both got really good size for the division. It's southpaw in Micallef is a southpaw versus orthodox in Oban Elliott. And we saw Oban do a good job of mixing in the grappling, especially he out-grappled Preston Parsons. And I think when people saw that, they were like, okay, this guy's going to be able to win some minutes and be able to dictate not only the pace, but the location of his fights. And then 2 fights later, he got out-wrestled by a Korean. And that's a weird thing to see. Like you're out-wrestling a kid from Florida who's a wrestler, an American, and then now you got a Korean absolutely throwing you around like he's Jordan Burroughs. He got blanketed there. That was not a close fight by any stretch of the imagination. So, like right now, I'm kind of like on the Oban Elliott side. Like I kind of feel like I have no idea who this dude is.
Same,
because we've seen him out wrestle a guy that most people thought he was going to get out wrestled by, and then we saw him as a -600 favorite go out there and look like he never put on a singlet in his life. So I'm wondering if there were some issues with Elliott going into that last fight. Was he healthy? Did he train? Was there something going on? Were there some personal problems going on in his life? These are things that I kind of like feel like I need to know, because right now, in terms of career trajectory, I like Micallef a lot more than I like Oban.
Honestly, Weezy, I think he just underestimated his opponent, because he was talking all kinds of shit leading up to that fight. Like, he was like spewing venom at his opponent, and then he got handled. And it was one of those oh shit moments where, like, when they put the mic back in his face afterwards, he was just like, man, like he was the better night that night. Hats off to him. You know what I mean? Like I really feel like he kind of took his licks and was like, oh, guess I should have worked harder. Like that just kind of was the body language vibe I got from him. But who knows if he didn't own up to an injury or something like that, you never know. But I really feel like he just looked past Ko and paid for it.
Yeah, and that can happen because I think these guys buy into their own hype a lot. You know, a wrestler goes out there and knocks one dude out, and then all of a sudden they think they're the best striker in the division. And you don't want to be a wrestler falling in love with your hands.
Happens all too often.
Yeah, dude, you don't want to be a striker who all of a sudden is like, yeah, I can grapple now, and it's like I'm going to take down Damian Maia. Like it's like no, don't. Always remember who you are. And with Oban, I'm not exactly sure who he is yet. Is he a better striker than he is a grappler? Is he just that guy that's going to find your weak spot and exploit it? How is he going to win fights at this level against guys not named Val Woodburn and Basso Hafez? And I just don't know yet. So I think that Micallef's got a little bit more upside, but who knows? He might be believing his own hype now, and he might be out on the yacht being like, I'm going to run through Oban Elliott. And Oban just got a little bit of a vet lesson the last time out, and now maybe he can bounce back and see if we can see a better version of him.
That's fair. That's fair. If he goes back to the drawing board and puts the work in, maybe he's still the guy we thought he was. You never know. We'll have to wait and see. I am absolutely not getting involved pre-flop because I have no clue what to do with either of these guys at this point. This is a excursion for information, Wheezy. I'll be watching this fight very closely. We can take some notes. We can learn a little bit about these guys. I don't know enough to get involved from a betting perspective. Next up, you guys, we've got women's MMA at its finest. Loma Lookboonmee takes on Alexia Thainara. I love Loma, Wheezy. You guys know this. I absolutely love Loma Lookboonmee. She is an absolute ray of sunshine. She's really fun when she gets in there. She's 10-3. She's 29 years old. Kind of hard to believe. I keep feeling like she's like 33, 34 years old. She's not even 30 yet. She's on a 4-fight win streak. She's looking really good. She's worked on her grappling. I guess she moved up and she's training out of Canada now. She's not in Thailand anymore. I had some questions about that, but she looked really good, frankly, her last couple of fights. So I'm not seeing it as a problem at this point. Alexia Thainara, 12-1, 27 years old. This will just be her second UFC fight, and it almost seems like she's on a rocket ship, man. Her first fight, her debut off Contender, was against Molly McCann, and she handled Molly, choked her out in the very first round, and now she's getting a well-known, documented name like Loma. Seems like the UFC wants to put her on a rocket ship, man. This girl looks like she ate Aaron Yeager's mom. She smiles and she's all teeth. She looks like the chick from Attack on Titan, if I've ever seen one. I love how mean she is. I love how nasty she is. She is very physically strong and powerful, and you can just kind of tell when she gets in there. She showboats a little too much for me, Weezy, but you can tell that comes from that raw confidence, right? Like she's in there having fun, and while that can lead to mistakes, it's because she doesn't feel like her opponents really have anything for her. She's a bully. She's really explosive, man. She likes to chop at the calf. She's got big clinch knees. And it's one of those things where she'll throw super hard, knock herself off balance to do extra damage to you, because if it hits the mat, she don't care. She's a BJJ black belt and she's very talented on the mat. I've been saying for a long time, Wheezy, that my girl Loma is going to run into a problem because of her size. She is a natural atomweight. She should be competing at 105, but there is no 105-pound division in the UFC. So because of that, she's going to have to fight larger women. She's going to have to fight up at 115. And we've seen her be on the small side a couple of times, and she manages to squeeze by, but it's in these close competitive fights where she's dealing in small margins, I don't think this is the fight where that's going to work. I think the big power shots are going to come from Thainara, and I think the finishing upside is absolutely all on the side of Thainara. This is where you might be scared to lay chalk on a women's MMA fight, and I know Thainara is only in her second UFC fight, but she's got 16 pro fights. I'm not worried about the experience level. She checks a lot of boxes for me, Wheezy. I'm in on Alexia Thainara here. I think she beats Loma Lookboonmee. And when I first saw this fight announced, I used the phrase, she'll upset Loma. I thought Loma was going to get more respect from the bookies at the window. I thought it was going to be closer to Pick'em and maybe slight favorite Loma, and I was ready to hammer Alexia as an underdog. I'm sad she comes out as the favorite. She's now a larger favorite, so bookies didn't miss on this one. I like Alexia Thainara.
I do too. She blew me away in the Molly McCann performance. And, a lot of people will be like, it's Molly McCann. She sucks. You know, Molly McCann had 14 UFC fights. She won 7 of them. And she won a lot of those fights up at 125. And for Alexia Thainara to go out there in her UFC debut and beat an opponent of that quality, very impressive. But there were a couple other things that made it even more impressive. First of all, she took the fight on less than 2 weeks' notice. This is a young lady who made a flight from Brazil to the United Kingdom to fight one of the United Kingdom's favorite fighters in Molly McCann. You know, I mean, like, that is
a short notice too, I think.
Short notice, less than 2 weeks, long flight, weight cut, all of those things, you know, I thought really favored McCann in that spot. And Alexia not only came out there and looked comfortable in the cage, she looked comfortable on the walkout. She looked like she was born to do this. I don't think people talk about how important it is that a fighter is comfortable in the cage, right? It's really weird because, you know, nobody should ever be comfortable when they're in their underwear fighting in a steel cage in front, you know, I mean, like, that is something that you have to have an honest screw loose in your head to
fighters are insane, Wheezy. It's
they're
part of the job
literally
description.
insane. But when you're betting on fighters, you know, you want the insane ones because those are the ones that are confident. Those are the ones that, you know, they would rather be there than a lot of other places in life, you know.
I want Anthony Smith levels of self-delusion when I put my money on you.
Yeah. And Alexia just looks, you know, and that's another thing too. When you're comfortable in the cage, you're not going to adrenaline dump. You're not going to get tired as easily because you're comfortable slipping and ripping. It, you know, it doesn't, like, a lot of people would see a punch just, you know, whiz by their chin and just miss, and they'd be like, whoo, shit, that scared me. And so other people will be like, oh, that just missed me. Now I'm countering, you know, now I'm slipping, I'm ripping, I'm moving. When you're comfortable in there, it makes a big difference. But this is going to be a great test. This is perfect for Alexia because Loma's 7-2 in the UFC. You know, so she's been here for a long time. She's got 125 minutes of UFC octagon time. She's won 7 of her 9 fights at this level, and she's been in there against solid opponents. These are some good names that she's been in there against. So this is the right test at the right time. And now Alexia's her first fight, Brazil to the United Kingdom. Now it's Brazil to Perth to fight somebody from Thailand originally. So obviously much less of a trip for Loma if she was in Thailand, but I don't know if she's training in Canada for this, because if she is, she better get there early because Perth is close to nothing. So perfect test for somebody in Alexia that I think is on a rocket ship, like you said. I think that the trajectory for her career is seriously positive, but she's meeting somebody that's 7-2 in the UFC. So we cannot underestimate how big that strength of schedule advantage is on the Loma side, how big those 7 UFC wins are, and the fact that she's shown that she can win it striking, she can win it clinching, and she can win it grappling as well. So she's a well-rounded fighter, but she's undersized. I don't think she's going to be anywhere close to the level of submission grappling that Thainara is. And I think that Loma Lookboonmee is really capped in terms of how far she can go in this division. I don't see that cap. I don't see that ceiling over Alexia Thainara's head. I honestly think she could be top 5, top 10 in this division by the time 2026 is over. I do believe that. So we're going to see. But if she goes and puts together back-to-back wins in England against Molly McCann and then goes to Perth, Australia and beats Loma Lookboonmee, I think that it's going to be a big announcement to the division that this lady's for real.
Yeah, I think people are going to have to sit up and take notice. I'm going to look for an angled bet on her. I mean, at this price tag, you almost kind of got to parlay her, unfortunately, which is not my favorite thing to do with, I don't want to call it low-level women's MMA, right? We always talk about low-level women's MMA. This isn't low-level women's MMA. No. It's just small women's MMA. So don't really want to do that more often than not, but I feel like this is a spot where you can. Next up, you guys, we've got Navajo Stirling, and he's taking on the meme machine, Rodolfo Bellato, the tractor himself. What a weird fight, Wheezy. What a weird fight. there's a lot that we could say about Rodolfo Bellato. 12-2-1 and 29 years old. His UFC run has been one of the weirdest ones we've ever seen, right? This guy is I just don't even know what to say. He's 1-0-1-1. Yes, you heard that correctly. 1-0-1-1. He's got a win over Ihor Pateria, where he almost died in the first round, a decision draw against Jimmy the Brute Crute, and then a no contest against now retired, rest in peace, Paul Craig. What do you do with this guy? Like, he wants to come forward and brawl with you. That is his first instinct, is to walk forward, keep his hands next to his hips, let you punch him in the face 3 times, and then hit you back as hard as he can. That's what he wants to do. He's a decent grappler, actually. I believe he's a BJJ brown belt, or he might be a black belt, but he's a very good grappler. And you can see when he moves on the ground, like, he knows exactly what he's doing once he gets down there. But I've also seen him grappling with referees a couple of times because he's gotten clocked so hard that he doesn't know where he is, and he's on autopilot defending himself against the official. The Paul Craig up kick sent this guy into outer space. This guy had no clue what planet he was on, and somehow had another very awkward delayed reaction knockout situation where he fell over backwards, recovered just a little bit, woke up in the cage, and was ready to fight whoever was standing in front of him. This was just a couple of months ago. Now, Paul Craig is not known for his brutal power. And yet I thought he was acting at first too, but when he started attacking the ref, that was the thing for me that kind of sold that, oh shit. Like, we see that all the time when people have been knocked out. He's not smart enough to attack the ref. Okay, let me put it that way. He is the best actor I have ever seen in my life, and he thought 10 levels deep to go, okay, after I get hit by this, I've got to fight the referee to make sure people believe that I'm actually hurt. You don't do that, right? Like, you don't risk your job, your life. You don't want to get banned from the UFC forever for submitting a referee if they find out you were faking a KO injury. He's not that smart. He is just not that smart. So I legitimately feel like he got hit really, really hard. And that gives me questions about his chin. Frankly, that validates what I've been saying about his chin, because Ihor Pateria put this guy down so hard, he had to get a massive second wind and wait for Ihor to tire out before he was able to work his way back into that fight. And every single fight he's been in, he gets a massive rocking and then has to come back from it, Wheezy. It's just what he does. So now they're giving him Navajo Stirling. This is the blue chip guy, right? This is the New Zealand kid. This is the 7-0 undefeated kid. This is the city kickboxing prospect. The writing's on the wall here. Like, I know Navajo didn't look great against Ivan Erslan in his last fight. I understand that that was not his best performance, and he underperformed for what a lot of people expected. But minus 240 is going to look like a gift in hindsight, Wheezy. This is being set up by the UFC. They understand they've got a meme machine who is not durable, who's going to stand in front of a striker and eat punches with his face. This is Navajo. This is Navajo by KO. I won't be convinced otherwise. What do you like about this fight, Wheezy?
Yeah, it's going to be, obviously Navajo is the much more technical striker. If Bellato doesn't find ways to get this into the clinch and close the distance, he's in big trouble, I think that he really has to dirty this fight up. That's really the only chance that he has, because Bellato blocks punches with his face. His distance striking defense is 51.5%. And let's face it, it's not like he's facing snipers. He's facing Ihor Pateria, Jimmy Crute, Paul Craig. Paul Craig couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. So like these guys, that's what Bellato's striking defense is against those guys. He's been knocked out twice in his career. Both times it was by Vitor Petrino, once on the regional scene and once on Dana White's Contender Series. His win that got him his UFC contract was over Murtaza Talha Ali, who in the pre-fight interview for Dana White's Contender Series, for his fight against Rodolfo Bellato, Murtaza Talha Ali says, "I tore my knee right before I got this opportunity, but there's no way I'm passing this up. And I'm like, did this guy just say that he's going to be on one leg for this fight? And absolutely he was. And what happened? Bellato went out there and broke him. That's his best win. The Peterier win, that fight should have been stopped. He should have lost to Ihor Peterier. The Jimmy Crute fight, he gets this close to being finished in the first round. And then I think he lost the second round. I didn't score round 2 for Bellato there, so I don't think he won that fight, or I don't think that fight was a draw. I thought that was a pretty clear 29-27 for Crute. And then there's the Paul Craig no contest. So I don't have a lot of faith in Bellato here, but also we got to remember Navajo Stirling's not a grappler. He's a kickboxer. So there is a path here for Bellato. And the path would be categorically refuse to fuck off and stay at kicking distance with this guy. Don't do it. Walk forward like Michael Myers with a machete, put on your mask, get ready to go. You walk this dude down, you stay out of kicking range, you get your arms around him, you try to drag him to the ground. If that doesn't work, you try to win minutes in the clinch. You exhaust him, you make his muscles fill up with blood, and you don't let him pick you apart at distance striking range, because Navajo Stirling thus far in the UFC is landing 7.4 distance strikes per minute and only absorbing 3.1. So he's landing more than 2 distance strikes for every one that he absorbs. He lands at 48%. He has, his defense is around 64.5%. So if this thing stays at kicking range, Bellato is just going to lose minutes until he loses moments. And whether or not Stirling's going to be able to finish him, that's debatable. He couldn't get Tokos out of there. He couldn't get Erslan out of there, even though I thought Erslan was knocked out in the third round. It still took him a while to kind of get into a bit of a groove and find those big shots. So, I mean, maybe an over 1.5 here would be a decent look, because Stirling isn't really like a first round start your ass and go home. He's very technically responsible, very defensively responsible, and he will look to set up his big shots, and he will start with his defense, find your openings, and once he finds those, he'll start to land the big shots that help him win the minutes and bank the rounds of the fight.
I think this is his coming out party, man. Like, I hear all of what you're saying, but like, we've seen him getting close enough to these knockouts.
Yeah.
He's getting a guy who is not smart enough to play this game smart and correctly. He's not going to follow the proper game plan. He's going to stand right in front of him. He's going to strike with him. And obviously he's not the most durable guy we've ever seen. I think this is the coming out party for Navajo Stirling. In fact, the last couple fights we talked about, man, Alexia Thainara and Navajo Stirling right around even money for a 2-legger parlay. I think that's going to make my card. I kind of like that now that we're talking about those two, because I think they can both win a decision. I think they can both win by finish. I don't want to mess with the props necessarily, even though I'm predicting the KO for one of them. I just think they both get it done. So I kind of like that. I'll probably end up playing that.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
All right, guys, real quick, let's shout out the sponsors here. As you know, Spectation Sports, you guys, we had a triple header this past week, a triple header. It was exhausting. It was exciting. Thank God there was no UFC. I got to watch a whole lot of fun regional MMA. Use promo code DieHard when you sign up for 20% off. There's a lot of people that are coming out of these organizations who are going to be on Dana White's Contender Series, that have been on Dana White's Contender Series. And if you're like me and you just like watching mixed martial arts, it's another avenue for you to find yourself some entertainment on the weekends. Most of the time, these shows have betting lines for you to go and get some action down on these things as well. But Juan Archuleta just got a win this past week, probably punched his ticket back to the UFC. You could have seen that live. Ray Cooper III just got tapped out by an absolute monster that came out of the mountains of nowhere. This is the kind of stuff you're going to get. So you want to be plugged in on this. Promo code DieHard will get you that 20% off. Please be sure to get in there and check it out. Also, CloudBet, you guys. We've been talking about this. They're the sponsor here for the podcast. They're an incredible sports book. If you guys want to get a shot to go attend PFL Abu Dhabi in October, they're giving away tickets. First place is 2 VIP tickets, including a Paul Hughes after party with Paul Hughes signed gloves. You couldn't get a better deal than that. Second place will get general admission tickets, so you're still going to get tickets to the fight. Third place, you get a PFL merchandise kit partnered with Cloudbet. So there's more than just the main prize there, but every $10 you bet when you sign up using promo code Hughes will get you 1 entry into this contest. You've only got 1 week, you guys, 1 week to take a shot at winning this contest. And on top of that, you guys will be helping me out. So click that link, use promo code DieHardMMA when you sign up, and go win yourself some goodies. Welcome back to the show. We are going to go ahead and finish breaking down PFL Perth. I am joined by MMA Wheezy, everybody's favorite uncle. Make sure you're checking him out, supporting him, and please hit that like button here on the live stream if you haven't yet. Next up, we have got Louie Sutherland, the Vanilla Gorilla himself, the 5th or 6th Vanilla Gorilla we've seen in the UFC, taking on Justin, the bad man, Tafa. To quote my guy Liam Picks Fights, Tafa, just one of the worst to ever do it, Wheezy. These brothers are so bad. I'm surprised they keep doing the brother combo with how bad they are. He's 7-5, man. 31 years old, 7-5, shows absolutely zero interest in his MMA career. I mean, he really just comes out here to fill a roster spot. He wants to get in there and bang it out with people. He's got ungodly power. I will give him that. If you want to sit in the pocket and trade with this guy, there's a highly likely chance that you're going to go to sleep. But he's so outskilled everywhere else, doesn't know how to defend takedowns, doesn't know how to get up off of his back. Like, if you take this guy down, he'll just ride out the round and start round 2 on the feet and try and take a crack at knocking you out again. It's kind of embarrassing. I don't think the Tafas are going to be long for the UFC at this stage, man. Louie Sutherland is a UFC newcomer, 31 years old, and he comes out of the Levels Fight League. Wheezy, I've never heard of the Levels Fight League until I found this guy and had to do some research and do some tape. Pretty intriguing prospect. This is a very, very big man who is surprisingly fast. I mean, he's pretty athletic for how large he is. He doubles up on his lead left hook. His hands are fast. He's got a big power right cross. He's pretty measured with his pace. And then when he goes, he goes. This man is looking for blood with that right hand. Every single time he throws it, he sells out for that thing. This is going to be a fun fight. I mean, Louie Sutherland is the kind of guy who's going to give Tafa exactly the kind of fight that he wants. I just don't know that Tafa is going to have the reach to be able to get to him. I think Louie's being put in a position to win his UFC debut pretty intentionally here. And on top of that, the UFC needed some Scottish representation, right? We just lost Paul the Bear Jew Craig. We need a Scot in the UFC. So Louie's getting signed. He's getting the opportunity. I'm going to pick him to win this fight over Justin Tafa, but volatility to the max, man. These guys are going to go life and death with each other. It's another pick 'em price tag. But I think the UFC clearly wants one of these two to win. I'll pick Louie.
Yeah, I've been following Liam Picks Fights on Twitter for years, and I just remember that tweet after one of the most recent Tafa brothers losses, and it was just like the Tafa brothers, God bless them, the worst to ever do it. And I just remember laughing so hard at that tweet, just laughing like way harder than I should have laughed at such a simple.
It's an evergreen tweet. He can just repost it like every time they fight.
It's just so true. They're so bad. And I want everybody to really kind of keep this this will be the most important thing I say today. Okay. Justin Tafa has 4 UFC wins. Just let that marinate for just a minute here. And I'm going to say it again. Justin Tafa has 4 UFC wins. There's a lot of fighters that are pretty good fighters that got 0 UFC wins. They wound up getting up here and they got hurt, or they got something just didn't go their way. They got a couple of bad matchups. You see some of these guys who come back 5 years later, and you're like, oh shit, they were a flyweight and their only fights were against Davison Figueiredo and Joe Benavidez, and then they got kicked out of the organization. And you're like, oh yeah, it's hard to get wins at this level, but this is the heavyweight division. And the heavyweight division is just awful. If you're a baseball player who doesn't have the best athletic ability, you better learn how to catch. you know, because you're going to be a catcher. You're going to be behind the plate, blowing out your knees. You're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 45, you know, and you got to learn how to do the things that are going to, well, if you're not a great athlete, but you want to be a great fighter, you better be a heavyweight because they suck up there, and you're going to be able to find some way to beat just about everybody in the division because everybody's got holes up here. So Sutherland, we're going to find out if he can wrestle a little bit, because that's, you know, if you really want to beat Tafa, you can outpoint him at distance striking range because the guy's not a minute winner. I mean, he's 0-3 to the decision as a professional. You know, the guy really is, you know, bonk or bust. I mean, if he doesn't land that big left hand on you, you know, he's probably not going to beat you. And Sutherland is somebody that I've seen on the tape that I watched. I mean, he can wrestle a little bit. He can land that big right hand. He's got good kicks, too. That's something we don't see a lot of from Tafa. We see better kicks from the Sutherland side, but everything that has any kind of danger factor from Sutherland's coming from the right side. It's either the straight right hand or it's the right kicks to the calf, body, and head. But the left hook doesn't, I haven't seen him really hurt anybody with the left hook. He doesn't throw it a lot, and he doesn't throw switch kicks. So he's going to be a pretty easy guy to prepare for. Move to the opposite side of his power, stay away from the power, and you should be able to, you know, outpoint a guy like that and avoid him, you know, closing the distance and taking you down. But yeah, this is an ugly one. Should be a really fun fight, but as far as gambling goes, I mean, like, I can't picture having money on Justin Tafa. That would be a bad thing. And, you know, Louie Sutherland, he's got to prove it to me at this level before I start saying that I want to have money on him. At a pick'em against a guy who's got 10 UFC fights. I mean, Louie Sutherland only has 13 professional fights. Justin Tafa also has 13 professional fights, but he's got 10 fights at the UFC level. So this is a big step up in competition, going from Levels Fight League, names like Matusalem Santos, Luke Newland, you know, Slim Treblesi, going up to somebody at the UFC level who's fought a decent amount of competition up at this level. So it's a stay away, but I mean, I think Louie will probably win.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Let's go, Louie. Let's get some Scottish blood back in the cage. Hey, if you guys don't know, McLean, we're Scots. We're Highland Scots. There's a castle in my name. I have royal blood. I have personally won a gold medal throwing a caber, which, if you don't know what a caber is, it's a giant tree. So I'm all about the Scots, man. Let's go, Louie. We're team Scotland here. Next up, Tom Nolan takes on Charlie Campbell. Tom Big Train Nolan, Wheezy, is an interesting situation in the UFC. He's very intriguing to me. I don't quite know what to make of this kid. It seems like he's got potentially like an incredibly high ceiling.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't trust his durability. He's just 25 years old, though. So he's like really, really young. Came into the UFC way too high on himself, gets smoked by Nicholas Mota. That's a bad look. Mm-hmm. But I think it humbled him, right? Like, it taught him the lesson he needed to know. And now he's coming back and he's doing things a little bit differently. Really tall, really lanky, good long jab, likes the body kicks, good Muay Thai knees as well. He mixes in his grappling, but he's not a very good wrestler. He got a lot of his takedowns stuffed by Slava claws, which is about as insulting as it gets, man. Like, if you can't take down Slava, what are you doing? But he does climb on to people, right? Like, once he gets his hands on you, he's a good grappler. He can climb his way to your back. He can get you scrambling, find his way on top. He's got really filthy ground and pound when he does get on top of people. My biggest critique with him getting to the UFC was, once again, he just didn't have enough experience. I felt like it was too much too soon. I didn't have the guts to pull the trigger on Nicholas Mota because I'm not a Nick Mota guy. But that was the spot where I was like, hey, red flag, just warning, beware. His last 3 fights in a row, he's rattled off 3 really impressive performances. I can't knock the kid. And he's gained that experience on the job at a very high level. And he's looked pretty good doing it. He stood more with Slava than I expected him to. I kind of thought his chin would get tapped a couple times and we'd see that durability be a problem like I talked about. But he checked out okay. Defensively, he looked a lot better. I kind of like Tom Nolan. Like, I'm ready to kind of change my opinion around on him and buy in just a little bit. Charlie Campbell, 2-0 so far in the UFC. He's an all-action fighter. This is the guy on Dana White's Contender Series that had Duncan in all sorts of trouble and then just got deaded. Like the classic Duncan comeback that we thought was a fluke that's just been the thing he does in every UFC fight ever since he got here, right? This guy was the very first victim of that situation. Very long, straight punches, big knees, just kind of chips away at you. It was interesting because he fought Trevor Peek recently, and I thought that was like a showcase spot for these guys. They're just going to go in there, blood and guts, bang it out. Instead, he said, no, thank you. I don't feel like brawling with Trevor Peek. He used a lot of footwork. He stayed on the outside. He used lots of movement. It was a really impressive performance, a very measured performance from him. So I was pretty impressed by what I saw from Charlie Campbell. This should be a fun fight, man. It's a very close, competitive fight. Tom Nolan, the -155 favorite. Charlie Campbell, +130, the underdog. So very closely lined as well. Dare I say, I think I will buy in ever so slightly on Tom Nolan. I'm going to pick him to get the win. But guys, this is a really rough card for me. So last week, or week before last week, Noche, I thought I had the script, right? I thought I could have written out for you exactly how all those fights would have gone. This week is the exact opposite, where I'm like, man, I kind of don't know on any of these. So I'm a little cautious this week on these fights. I want to pick my spots very, very, very carefully, but I think I'm leaning towards Tom Nolan here. And at -155, that's where you'd want to buy before that number got out of hand, if that's the side that you like. What are you thinking here, Wheezy?
Yeah, so Charlie Campbell is on a 17-month layoff coming into this fight. And in addition to that, recently, I remember 2 weeks ago, one of his teammates got a big third-round win on Dana White's Contender Series, and he was there in the building in Vegas for that fight. And I remember that this had just been booked because Tom Nolan was originally slated to fight Evan Elder. So it's Charlie Campbell who's stepping in on short notice. And it's one thing to take a short notice fight. It's another thing to take a short notice fight in Perth. Okay. You know, I mean, it takes, like I said, there's planets that are closer than Perth. So why, you know, to go from New York to Perth for Charlie Campbell, that's a long trip, you know? So he's taking a fight after being out of the cage for 17 months. Charlie Campbell was slated to fight. Let me get this for you here. Slated to fight Mauricio Hufi in November of 2024. He had to pull out of that fight with an injury. We haven't seen him since. And that fight was 7 months after his fight with Trevor Peek. So inactivity is definitely a red flag when I'm capping fights. And inactivity followed by taking a fight on short notice in Perth is 3 red flags that are just screaming at me right now. And then you got on the other side, Tom Nolan, who's coming off a career best performance against Borshov. That was the toughest opponent that he had fought at the UFC level since Moda. And he ran through him. He put him in so many bad spots. And he was actually outstriking Slava at distance striking range, which I didn't think that was going to be easy for him to do at all because Slava's a very good striker. The problem with Slava has always been the ground game, but Tom Nolan was looking good on the feet against him too. So like you said, and I agree with you, at 6'3", at only 25 years of age, Tom Nolan's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. He's got power in his strikes. He can finish fights wherever it goes. This guy's got a really high ceiling. If he starts to put it all together, if he starts to out-wrestle good strikers, if he starts to outstrike good wrestlers and keep fights standing, with that 6'3" frame, with his youth, with his natural power, the ceiling is very high for this kid, but there's still a lot to be proven here. And Charlie Campbell's the real deal. Charlie Campbell's got a ton of power in his own right. He's training over there with Longo and Sarah, so you know that the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is going to be on point. And the kid looks like he loves to fight, too. He's another guy that looks very comfortable in the cage. So this is a great fight. This is my favorite fight on the card. I cannot wait to see how this one turns out because these are 2 young fighters. Charlie's only 30. Tom's only 25. So Tom's going to have that home field advantage here fighting in Australia. against the guy in Campbell who's coming off a very long layoff and a lot of inactivity and some kind of an injury, which kept him out of the Hoofy fight. So I'm leaning to the Nolan side as well, but I still feel like after the Borshov fight that we're going to have to pay up for him a little bit, because I believe that this is a step up from Borshov, because Campbell is somebody that I think is just extremely dangerous in multiple areas of MMA. So I can't wait for this fight. I don't know who's going to win this fight, but I do know that it's my favorite fight on the card, and I can't wait to see what's next for both of these guys.
Yeah, man, this one will be exciting. This one will be very exciting. Fun fight, leaning Nolan, and we got to get the dang thing going. All right, guys, real quick before we go on to the next fight, just a point of order. I'm going to shout out my two guys. The only reason I have any gambling money jingling around in my pocket, I know I speak it off like it's an ad read, like they pay me, but I promise you that's kind of just the way that I talk. My guy Keg from Nuke the House, and then my guys Razor Sharp Picks. They're the two best gamblers I've ever met in my life, and neither of them are in the chat right now. But I again need to just reiterate this: it's football season. When I'm done with this show, go search up my guy Keg. He's live right now. I will be joining his live show, not on camera, but like I'll be jumping in to listen for the Monday Night Football game as soon as I am done here. The guy live bets like nobody you've ever seen before. He will make you money, I promise. And then Razor Sharp Picks is the one guy who I ever shout out as far as someone who, if you want to subscribe to like somebody's picks where, you know, they charge for their action, he's the one guy who I know documented long-term is legitimately going to return on that investment, and he's incredible. His baseball numbers this year, off the charts. I've never seen anything like it. Make sure you check those two guys out. Let them know Clint sent you. They're my boys. They're the only reason I have it right now. So just want to pass that along, genuinely, as a favor to you guys, and because they're good dudes. So make sure you guys check them out. Next up, we got Jake Matthews, the Celtic Kid, taking on Neil Magny. Oh, Lord. So, Weezy, I've been a Magny truther forever. Magny is probably my absolute favorite mangy old dog. Like, this guy, his style is quicksand. He just sucks you into his fight. There's nothing you can do about it, right? Unless you are taking him down, out grappling him at a high level black belt level and tiring him out and schooling him on the mat, which a lot of people seem to be able to do. If you're not doing specifically that, people have a real hard time with Neil Magny. Now, recently, obviously, the top young contenders, Carlos Prates, Michael Morales, people that match his height and reach and have that power edge, those guys will kill the old man, right? Like, that'll happen. But before that, it took that grappling gap for him to really find any kind of trouble. He just finds a way to win. Over a 15-minute fight, it's just death taxes and 29-28 Neil Magny, because he'll give up a round, he'll figure you out, and then he'll make you fight his fight. And he showed in his last fight against Elisha Zaleski dos Santos, my God, like, he's still got it, man. He's finding finishes at this ripe old age of his career. Now, he's fighting an age-appropriate man in that position, so it makes some sense, but geez, like, I didn't expect him to finish Elisha in that spot. I thought if he won, it was a decision, if anything. So Neil Magny's still throwing me some curveballs at this point, and I'm a guy who usually backs him, and pretty successfully over the years. Jake Matthews, 22-7, 31 years old. The Celtic Kid finally finding his groove, finally coming into his own. He's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, with his only loss coming to Michael Morales, which is impressive as all hell. His last fight, one, though, that leaves me kind of scratching my head just a little bit wheezy. I said that Jake Matthews would make the fight look easy against Chidi if he wrestled. Now, he goes out there and he wins in first round submission, and I look like a genius. Not quite, because he never wrestled. We see he ended up in a really weird scramble, somehow got to the back of Chidi, choked him out like it was nothing. I said he could sub him, but only if he went out with the intention to do so. You listen to his post-fight interviews, and what's he talking about? Was the game plan to grapple? No, he just gets in there and fights. He just does what comes to him. And I'm like, that's a fucking problem. Like, he's a guy who's got mid skills everywhere. He's not a very good wrestler. He can wrestle. He never does. He's a BJJ black belt. If you give him a window, if you get an opportunity like against Chidi, he can tap you out. But if you don't provide that window, he's not looking for it. He just has to kind of stumble across it. He's a good boxer. He's got fast hands. right? Back in the day, I remember we had like an ultra crystal far seer into the future type call when he knocked out Andre Fialho. We hit the knockout prop, we hit the round 2 prop. Like that was a glorious night, right? But long time ago in the past, he's not really a power guy, right? Like you've got to take advantage of somebody who's a little bit chinny for that to work. So does he have the power to flatline Neil Magny? I don't think so. Can he submit Neil Magny? Yes, absolutely. But is he going to wrestle Neil Magny? No. He's already proven to me that he's not going to wrestle anybody. He's not going to go out here and wrestle Neil Magny. So how's he going to submit the guy if he's not going to wrestle him? Is he going to climb him like you did Chidi and Jaquani? Probably not. Magny doesn't really put himself in those kinds of positions. Is he going to pull guard if Magny is pinning him up against the fence and kneeing him in the gut? Probably not. He doesn't like to go to his back, right? Like unless you're wrestling, he will go to his back if you wrestle, and that's always been a knock of mine on Jake Matthews is he'll accept that bottom position. Neil Magny sometimes likes to come out here and hit takedowns, man. So is he going to arm bar Neil Magny? Probably not, man. Like even though Neil Magny gets submitted, is it cheeky little arm bars that he's losing to? No, it's chokes from guys like Shavkat Rakhmonov or Gilbert Burns. Like I am very, very tempted to take one last ride with the old dog and Neil Magny here. I feel like the stock could not be possibly more expensive on Jake Matthews, right? He's minus 400 in this spot over the elderly Neil Magny. But at the end of the day, I still feel like Neil Magny has more experience, he has more caliber, high-level experience. He's more well-rounded. He's got some physical tools here as well. Man, I think it's very possible that Neil Magny can go out there and spoil the show. I'm selling Jake Matthews stock like Disney stock right now, man. That thing's tanking. I think Neil Magny has the opportunity to play upset and spoiler one more time. I don't know if I've got the balls to actually make the bet, man. I'm a little bit nervous about this one. I'm honestly not going to lie, but I kind of feel like it's one last ride territory.
I mean, it could be, Magny is a guy who just keeps performing well, whether he's a favorite, whether he's an underdog at the UFC level, he keeps finding ways to win fights. And, you can look at his most recent, here, I'm uploading something that I wanted to put there, open it. Why is it not opening? That's weird. Let me refresh this. Because Neil Magny is just always an underdog. And I was pointing it out on Stat Diggers that he's been like, he was, for the last 5 fights, he was plus 135 versus Dos Santos. He was plus 525 versus Prates, plus 580 versus Morales, plus 300 versus Mallet, plus 380 versus Ian Gary. So I mean, like this guy, the market's given up on Neil Magny a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And when he does win fights, he tends to win them by decision, unless somebody gasses out late in the fight. And, Easy DS, he just gassed out in the second round and quit. Same thing with Mallet in the third round. He just quit, and there was only 30 seconds left in the fight. And all he had to do was move, and he would have won that fight 29-28, and he just didn't. So the thing is, if you're going to bet against Neil Magny, you better be betting on somebody with cardio. You better be betting on somebody that isn't going to, give up once the second things start don't go their way. And with Magny, you got a guy with the betting line information. Jake Matthews has been a favorite 16 times at the UFC level. He's got an 11-5 record, but his average betting line is minus 274, and he's got a negative ROI of 7%. But Neil Magny, as an underdog, has a 10-9 record with an average betting line of plus 205 and an ROI of 38.5%. So Matthews doesn't perform well as a favorite, and Magny performs very well as an underdog. And it's because people don't really understand how Neil Magny wins fights, because it's not how most people win fights. Most people win fights by finding a big moment, by drowning you with wrestling and winning minutes with, either good distance striking or some really dominant, suffocating grappling. Neil Magny holds you up against the cage and does more than you do. And he doesn't get tired. He's a fairly durable guy as well. Like, you don't see him getting really starched on the feet. If he gets taken down, though, he could be very vulnerable. And my betting model loved Jake Matthews by submission. That opened up at plus 500. Jake Matthews, 6 of his 15 wins come by way of submission. 5 of 9 Neil Magny losses in 3-round fights at the UFC level comes by submission. When you add up the 15 wins of Matthews and the 9 losses of Neil Magny, 46% of that total have ended by submission. If you adjust that by an 83% win probability for Jake Matthews, you're looking at a prop that should be priced around 38%, and instead it opened up at 17%. So I bet a half unit on Jake Matthews to win by submission. I think a club and sub could be live because I'm hearing that that Neil Magny's chin is not as reliable as it used to be. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that the durability is in question at this point in his career, and the ground game has always been in question. Yes. That's one thing you'll hear with anybody that's trained with Magny. They're like, well, if you take him down, you can easily find his back and submit him. And he's been choked out numerous times. And I think that Jake Matthews, if he can find his way to a dominant position on the ground, that he's got a really good chance to finish by submission. But, you know, the Chidi fight, they clinched up in the center of the cage and he caught a foot sweep. That's how he got to the back. It was a foot sweep. It was a beautiful judo foot sweep, but he never shot a takedown. You're right. You know, he just wound up in a place where you don't want to be with Chidi. You also don't want to be there against Neil Magny. He found the sweep and got the grappling exchange that he needed to find the back. I think he's going to have to try to do that, something like that again with Magny, but I think he'd be smart to wrestle. He should wrestle here. There's no reason to stand at distance striking range against somebody that much taller and longer than you, and you know you don't want to be in the clinch against this guy. So let's see if Matthews can pass the IQ test here and force some grappling exchanges to this fight. I think if he does, he's going to find the win.
Yeah, man, calling this an IQ test is probably about the most accurate thing I've ever heard, because this really should be Jake Matthews by sub, like, way more often than not. The problem is I don't know if it will be just based on the way Jake Matthews fights. So we'll just have to wait and see, man. I like I said, you guys, there's something keeping me off, right? I said this could be one last ride territory. This could be old dog one more time, but I'm just like, oh, like I got such a bad vibe on it. Wheezy's saying we got questions about the durability. That's probably enough to like keep me off of it. I'm not touching a minus 400 on Jake Matthews. Like we talked about, it's a bad ROI. He's not a guy you trust as chalk, and I just can't do it. Sub prop. Now we're talking. Maybe I can sprinkle a little bit on a sub prop. We'll see what ends up going on, but it could be just another one where the bookies lined it well enough that I probably end up passing on it and staying away from that kind of a price tag. Let's keep it rolling, everybody. Next up, you've got Jimmy the Brute Crute, and he's taking on Ivan Erslan. What a mess. Wheezy, what a mess this fight is. Jimmy Crute is a guy who I've talked all the time about. I've talked over and over and over again. I was so high on him. I believed the y'all know Jimmy Crute lines by Dana White, right? Like I thought this dude was going to be the next big thing. 13-4-2, the draw king himself. He's still somehow only 29 years old, but Wheezy, frankly, I think he's shot. Like at 29 years old, I think Jimmy Crute is shot. I don't think he's ever as good as he was made out to be. They rushed him trying to make a star out of him, and he was just not built for that world. And he's going to get wins in the right situations. But even in his last fight, Marcin Prachniow is my bottom of the barrel. He's my worst fighter in the roster. He's my guy that I go, look, if you're not beating Marcin Prachniow, we have a serious problem. So with all the money I've lost on Jimmy Crute, with all the draws where I've gotten pushes and said, thank you, Jesus, getting my money back at the end of the night because Jim Crute should have lost, but instead I got a push. Like, I've gone through all this, and I still somehow said, you know what? We got to bet against Marcin Prachniow because it's Marcin frickin' Prachniow, right? Like, that's the kind of thing I'm going to do with that guy. He sucks. He's terrible. He's old. He can't grapple. Got to do it. Jim Crute submitted that guy in round one. Wheezy, that was the most butthole puckered round one of my life. Like, Jim Crute gave me heart attacks throughout that first round. He did everything he was supposed to do, and he still almost failed to secure the bag that night against Marcin Prachniow. It was awful. And it took him getting an arm bar with like 20 seconds left on the clock to finally get me paid out in that spot. And frankly, he looked tired, Wheezy. He looked exhausted at the end of that first round. And he tends to do that. Jimmy Crute always comes out like a bat out of hell in that first round, and he's got a lot of round one finishes because of it. He will football tackle you from across the cage and drive you to the mat, and he's very dangerous with his submissions. But if you survive that first round, he falls off. He falls off a cliff. He just can't keep that pace up. He's in trouble if you get him out of that first round, and we've seen it time and time and time again, and I was like, oh, God. Like, I'm already having a bad year, Wheezy. I've had back-to-back the worst 2 years of my life gambling, and I thought, I cannot sit on a podcast and talk about losing money on Jim Crute because he lost to Marcin fucking Prachniow. Like, I was ready to end it all that night if he didn't get that win. So thank God I still have a podcast to do because I could have pulled the plug. Now they're giving him Ivan Erslan. Now, Erslan is 14-5, 33 years old, and he's 0-2 in the UFC since coming over from KSW. That seems a little misleading to me, Wheezy. He lost a He lost a split decision to Ion Cutelaba in his UFC debut. A split I felt like he won. That was a very close back and forth fight between the two of them. Could have gone either way, but I scored it for Ivan, frankly. He did very well in that fight. He won in some of the transitions. He seems almost like a mirror matchup to Ion Cutelaba. He's a big, hulking, muscly guy who can wrestle a little bit, who likes to mix in the takedowns, who wants to bite down on the mouthpiece and throw heavies. He's a little low volume, right? But he'll kind of lull you into a slow pace and just kind of beat you up over the course of 15 minutes if he's not hitting a big kill shot early on in the fight. And that's what cost him against Navajo Stirling. That fight was 1-1 going into round 3. And I really thought he had it in the bag. I think I live bet Ivan Erslan that night. I think I took a stab at him live in that fight, if memory serves correctly. And he just didn't do enough in the third, and he ended up on bottom. Navajo clipped him with something and was ground and pounding him in that third round. It ended up being awful, but it was a 29-28 Navajo, where I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at Jim, and I'm going, okay, so if Jimmy comes out and goes life and death with Ivan Erslan, Erslan is the better striker. Erslan does hit harder. I think Erslan can wrestle with Jimmy Crute. And Ivan Erslan has gone 25 minutes in KSW before, Wheezy. This guy has gone far deeper in fights than we've ever seen Jimmy Crute go. Every time Jim Crute gets out of that first round, he either loses by knockout or ends up in a draw because he can't go 15 minutes. He's not capable of it. So, yeah, Ivan Erslan lost his last fight by decision, but it was against a much higher prospect. I think we get our money back in this spot, Wheezy, but it's not by betting on Jim Crute. It's by betting against Jim Crute. This is your Link Memorial Dog of the Week. Yes, I know that Ivan Erslan is in enemy territory. Yes, I know the UFC would still like Jimmy Crute to be a thing and would still like Jimmy Crute to win this fight. But at minus 185, we're never laying chalk on this man ever again. Is he going to double leg Ivan Erslan, put him on the mat, and choke him out in the first round? I highly doubt it. So if we get into a rock'em sock'em match, can Jim Crute knock this guy out? Yeah, probably. Probably can. But any other result, I think Ivan Erslan is extremely live. Erslan can knock out Jimmy Crute. Erslan can outlast Jimmy Crute. Erslan can out-grapple Jimmy Crute. I like Ivan Erslan at a decent-sized underdog number here, Wheezy. Tell me, talk some sense into me here. Am I insane?
I mean, you're never insane to bet against Jimmy Crute because this guy can drop the ball. He could fuck up a cup of coffee. And he's done it before. He's definitely done it before. You know, like when he fought oh, God. I mean, you want to talk about failing an IQ test. He fought Anthony Smith, who has the worst takedown defense in any division in the history of the UFC. And he goes out there and, like, tries to kickbox with him. And he's winning. He's actually landing a bunch of leg kicks. And then, you know, Smitty lands one calf kick, shuts down his leg. And on one leg, then Jimmy Crute starts to wrestle. And he gets 2 takedowns in the last minute of the round.
Immediately.
Yeah, immediately. And he can't even come out for the second round because the peroneal nerve has shut down his ability to be able to control his leg. So he loses the fight and he fails a major IQ test. When he fought Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, now that was an IQ test that he passed with flying colors. Oleksiejczuk is a guy that can knock you out. You know, he's going to pressure you. He's going to walk you down. He's got serious power and great durability. What does Crute do? He goes out there and he wrestles immediately. He gets 8 takedowns in round 1, eventually finds his way to a dominant position and finishes the fight with a submission. And then he goes out there against Jamal Hill, not too far after that, you know? And I'm thinking like, oh, see, now we've already seen this fight, you know? We've already seen a really good lefty striker go out there and get absolutely dominated on the mat, and Jamal Hill has no ground game, okay? So Jimmy Crute, that was going to be available to him. He didn't do it, you know, like he waited till he got clipped to start wrestling, and it was already over at that point. So Crute is a guy that I expect to be able to have some wrestling success against people like Erslan. And the thing that really bothers me about Erslan is that he's a boxer. There's nothing else there. He's a good boxer, but he doesn't throw any kicks. And that doesn't really work at this level because he's not a pressure fighter. He's not going to walk you down and put you up against that cage and then really unload. Now, he can do that, and he has done that, but it's not really his style. He wants to box. He wants you to go first so that he can throw and counter. He's not going to walk you down and force a phone booth fight and then, you know, slip and rip in the pocket and look to knock you out. So I think Jimmy's got the better long-range weapons, and I think he's the better grappler here. But, man, I mean, am I laying minus 180 on Jimmy Crute? You know, like I said, if you can fuck up a cup of coffee, I don't want to be laying minus 180 on you. So I could see ways that Erslan can make this happen. And like you said, we haven't seen Jimmy Crute go out there and win a lot of second and third rounds at this level. He did win the third round against Paul Craig, got a submission with 12 seconds left in the round with the Kimura. But he lost rounds 2 and 3 against Rodolfo Bellato. He lost rounds 2 and 3 against Alonzo Menafield when they fought the first time. And as a matter of fact, he got submitted in the second round against Alonzo Menafield in the rematch. You know, he's going out there and he's losing second halves of fights because he is a little bit front-loaded, and he doesn't always make the right decisions in the cage. So it's really hard to trust Jimmy Crute at minus 180, especially against somebody like Erslan, who's got 20 professional fights, a 14-5 record. He's got power on the feet. He's got solid striking, and his grappling game is functional. Like, if he's facing like a pure striker, he can get a takedown and get some top time. If he's facing a good grappler with a good ground game who doesn't necessarily have the best wrestler, you could see Erslan get an underhook, put that dude on bottom, and land ground and pound from the top position. So he's got the ability. His grappling game is pretty functional, but at the UFC level, I don't think we can count on Erslan to go out there and get 3 takedowns, 7 minutes of control time, and win fights with top control. He won the third round against Ion Cutelaba with top control, but it was Cutelaba who shot a shit shot and then wound up on the bottom, and that's how Erslan won that third round. But I thought that Erslan had lost rounds 1 and 2 to Iwan there. So I thought it was actually a fairly clear fight, but I just thought that he landed the bigger shots at distance striking range in rounds 1 and 2. But like you said, it wound up being a split decision. It was a close fight. So if Erslan can go close with somebody like Cutelaba, if he can win a round off of somebody like Navajo Stirling, I don't mind taking a shot on him at plus money, I guess. But I do think Crute's better than this dude a little bit everywhere. And I think he's got the better long-range weapons. So I'm probably going to pick him to win, but minus 175, no thanks, man.
Yeah, man. If you're taking a round off Navajo and making it 15, if you're taking a round off Ion and making it 15, why aren't you taking a round off of this guy? And if we're going to a third round, it's never Jimmy Crute, man. That's all I'm saying. Like, if it's 1-1 going into 3, it's never Jimmy Crute. I'll take the money here. Next up, you guys, we've got Jack Jenkins taking on Ramon Taveras. This should be a really fun fight, Weezy. This is your co-main event of UFC Perth, and this fight really should be a banger, man. Ramon Taveras, he's a guy that I called a young Davy Grant, right? Like, and then he fights Davy Grant. He gets that vet lesson. My wily old guy pulls one out for us again. Yeah, I love his boxing. Ramon Taveras' boxing is incredible. He actually hurt Davy Grant early in that fight, just staying in the pocket. And then Davy kind of figured him out and picked him apart over the course of the next 10 minutes of the fight. And that's just kind of what you get here. He's 31 years old. He's a 2-time Dana White's Contender Series competitor. So I think there's questions there to be had. We're probably looking at nearly the finalized version of him. Lead left hook is money. Good boxing, stinging power, likes to stand right in front of his opponents. Hands are a little bit low, but he'll bite down and throw heavy, hard shots, and he's just fun to watch. He's going to be a guy that hangs around in the UFC a little bit because he's going to be entertaining as all hell. His opponent here in this spot, Jack Jenkins, 31 years old, 2-2 in the UFC, and kind of a tough call for these guys to be the co-main event, frankly, now that I'm looking at it. But he's got brutal calf kicks. I love Jack Jenkins' leg kicks, man. He mixes up his attacks really well. He likes to work the body a lot. He's always striking in combos. He's got that big power left body kick, and he's got really strong hips on initial takedowns from his opponents. But the problem is his sub-defense. It's a good thing he's got that stonewall hip situation going on, because once this guy gets on the mat, it's an issue. He's got 3 losses by sub, and he just seems to get tied into pretzels once he gets down there. You know, in his last fight, Gabriel Santos, he ends up getting tapped out in the 3rd round, but I thought it was over in the 1st. Like, he tags Santos, drops him, immediately gets thrown into a triangle. And I was like, oh, that's it. Like, he just dove face first into an L. And I was really impressed by his ability to gut it out, dig deep, and keep going. And then I was like, oh, maybe he's got this in the bag. Nope. Got him in the 3rd. So if you've got a submission offense, Jack Jenkins probably is somebody you can take out. That's not Ramon Taveras. I don't see that happening here with Ramon Taveras. So Ramon's going to come forward. He's going to try to crash the pocket. He's going to want to get into range, stay in the phone booth, box you up. Jack's not going to let him. Jack's going to kick the shit out of his lead leg. And that's kind of how I see this fight playing out in my head, man. I think this is a Jack Jenkins spot to lose, frankly. He's almost a 3-1 favorite. I don't like 3-1 on a 2-2 UFC guy, but at the same time, I think the script favors him. Like, I really do think he'll win this fight pretty handily.
I don't know, man. So Jenkins' ground game really bothers me. I mean, it is bad. It is so bad. It's just that Taveras isn't going to be the guy to take advantage of that hole in his game. So I think that this is going to be a striker versus striker matchup. What I've seen of Ramon's takedown defenses look pretty good. So I kind of feel like even if Jack does want to mix in the grappling here, I think he's going to have a hard time getting Taveras down and keeping him down. So I see whoever wins the striking exchanges winning this fight. Here's the thing about Jenkins. Those calf kicks work against orthodox fighters. They don't work against southpaws. If you watch how he sets them up, Jenkins, what he'll do is he's a switch stance fighter. So he will normally be in orthodox stance about 75%, 80% of the fight. When he switches to southpaw, he does that to set up the calf kick from the orthodox stance. So what he'll do is southpaw stance, right hand out front, he's throwing that left body kick. When that left body kick, when he pulls it back, he puts it down in front so that now he's in the orthodox stance. And as soon as that foot hits the ground, the right leg comes for the calf kick against the orthodox fighter. I've seen him fight switch stance fighters. When those switch stances go to southpaw, he's unable to set up the kick the same way. And he doesn't throw inside leg kicks nearly as often as he throws the outside leg kicks. So Ramon Taveras being a southpaw, I think is going to be a problem for Jack Jenkins. In addition, I think that Ramon's the much better boxer. The problem is that Jenkins has got better kicks. So this is another boxer versus kickboxer matchup. So because of that, I think Jenkins will have the better long-range weapons, and I think he's got a little more grappling upside, because we did see in the Linares fight on Dana White's Contender Series, Jack show the ability to get takedowns in top control and win minutes and bank rounds with a little bit of wrestling. But I don't know if he's going to be able to pull that off against Taveras, but I think Jack's more likely to offensively wrestle and more likely to win minutes with his grappling. And I think while it's on the feet, Ramon, it might look a lot like the Grant fight, where Grant, if you watch how Grant won the minutes of that fight, he won it with his kicks. He wasn't really winning it with his hands. You don't want to be in the pocket boxing against Taveras. The guy's got a great chin. He's extremely fast. And when he lands hard. He's got real power. He gets a lot of knockdowns. So this is a guy you can lose minutes. One mistake, you get dropped, and now you might lose that round. So I think that this fight's going to play out very close. I think Jenkins maybe looks minus 130 to minus 150 here by having the better long-range weapons at distance striking range, having the crowd behind him. But if he doesn't fight smart and he winds up in the pocket trading bombs with Taveras, I got Taveras winning the fight. So I'm interested to see if Jenkins can manage range with his kicks, with his superior long-range weapons, because Taveras is mostly, dependent on his hands. Just like in the last fight, we were talking about Erslan. Erslan doesn't throw kicks. Neither does Taveras. So Taveras is going to need to use his hands to close range, and he's not this guy that likes to relentlessly pressure you. So because of that, I'm leaning to the Jenkins side, but Jenkins is minus 280 and Taveras is plus 240. I see this fight taking place at distance striking range, where I think Taveras has the better moment winning ability. And I think that Jenkins' leg kicks are going to be muted by Taveras mostly fighting out of the southpaw stance. So I think it's going to play out a lot closer than what the markets are saying.
Okay. Very, very interesting angle on that one. Should be a banger of a fight either way. That one's one that I'm not so interested in betting. I'm more interested in watching. That'll be a real fun fight. All right, guys. One more time. Shout out CloudBet. Thank you for sponsoring the show, guys. Hit that link in the description below. Get signed up with promo code DieHardMMA. Win yourself tickets to PFL in Abu Dhabi. And it's time for your main event of the evening. Please like the show and get subscribed if you haven't yet. We're talking Carlos Ulberg, and he's taking on Dom, the Devastator Reyes. What a fight. This is a hell of a fight, man. I'm so happy, Wheezy. I'm so happy. Dom Reyes has been kind of the one thing I've gotten right the last couple of years. I told everybody that when this guy gets a little healthy and he gets a small step down in competition, he's going to remind everybody. Everyone was ready to write this guy off for dead after a couple of bad fights, and it didn't look good. But he has rattled off 3 big finishes in a row. Dustin Jacoby, Anthony Smith, Nikita Krylov, and frankly, man, the Dustin Jacoby and the Nikita Krylov ones were just glorious to me. I cashed big on both of those bets, and I tried to tell everybody. I was like, he's smashing in these spots. I got mocked. I got laughed at. Again, I don't have a lot to hang my hat on the last couple of years, so I'm going to take it when I get the shot. So I'm very, very excited about Dom turning things around, being legit, and cashing me a couple of bets the last couple of months. So thank you, Dominick. But now he's in what appears to be a potential title eliminator fight against Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg is 12-1, and he's 34 years old. Man, this guy lost his UFC debut to Kennedy Nzechukwu back in 2021 and never looked back. Like, he just keeps rattling off wins. And frankly, man, it took me too long to buy in on Blackjack. I've bet against this guy more times than I can count. This guy has cost me so much money. That first loss against Kennedy, I thought he was a complete fraud, man. And the UFC spoon-fed him opponents until he learned how to level up. He went from a guy who just gassed himself out looking for power shots at every single strike, looking like a scared deer in the headlights in the cage, to now he's slowed down and he's winning pick and poke decisions over guys like Volkan Oezdemir and Jan Blachowicz. Now, those are impressive wins, the last 2, and they stand head and shoulders above every other win he's ever had in his career. Frankly, he's fought the bums, the dregs of this weight class. Fabio Charant, who probably never should have been here. Tefon Nchukwi, who got cut forever ago. Nikolai Negumereanu, another guy who we haven't seen in 6 years. Ihor Potieria, soon to be cut if he hasn't already. Dawoon Jung, another cut and disappointing prospect. Alonzo Menifield, who I still cannot understand for the life of me why he ran face first into the fist of Carlos Ulberg in the first 6 seconds of that fight. And so then he caps it off with the last 2 fights that do kind of legitimize him as a contender. I will say the Jan fight was a little close. There was some dissension in that fight, if I remember correctly. Some people scored that fight for Jan. So it was not a blow your hair back type of performance. Now that he's at this level, it seems like he's found a way to slow the pace down, and he kind of picks and pokes and greases his way to close victories. If he doesn't embrace the power, Wheezy, I am not so sure that this guy is truly a title contender. I'll just go ahead and say that. He's 34 years old, and that's another thing that I think people are maybe kind of missing out on. We kind of paint him as this young, exciting prospect. He's not young. This guy was off doing The Bachelor Like, he wasn't fighting, right? So now he's a little older, even though he's young for the sport. He's an older guy. Dom Reyes is only 1 year older than Carlos Ulberg. So I will say that Ulberg, I believe, is more durable than Dom. But Ulberg does not like to get hit, Wheezy. Dom can't take a hit, but he's got the heart to. You know, when he gets cracked, he will roll and he'll come back swinging. Ulberg gets wide-eyed in the pocket still and wants to get as far away from the power as he can. I get athlete, not fighter vibes from Carlos Ulberg. And he's done a good job carrying himself to this point. But this is where it's dog or pass. I'm getting off the train. I'm fading or nothing here. Carlos Ulberg is a minus 265 favorite. You got plus 215-ish coming back on Dominick Reyes. And it's dog or pass for me, man. With 3 wins in a row, getting his confidence back, riding high. Like I said, if Ulberg comes out and these guys stand in the middle of the octagon and they go blood and guts, power for power, Ulberg probably can clip Dom and make him kind of see his demons again and bring back those chin concerns. It's totally possible. But if he comes out looking the way he did in his last couple of fights and tries to stay safe, Dom ain't the right guy. Dom will come forward and throw heavy boxing combinations and just will not fuck off until he's curled up against the fence. So I think Dom is very live in this fight, but I can also see very, very clear paths to victory for both guys. I trust Dom Reyes against a lower level of competition. It's when he starts cracking into that contender circle that I worry a little bit again about that durability, about the chin. And Ulberg is absolutely the kind of guy that can take advantage of that kind of an issue. So, man, it's a fight where I don't want either side. I don't want to lay this kind of a number on Carlos Ulberg. And even though I want to play Dom, if I had to choose a side to get on, I kind of get the vibes that he looks good until he gets clipped with something big. You know, I feel like Ulberg's going to be losing this fight until he wins it type of thing. And I'm trying to avoid spots where I get that feeling. And I know you shouldn't be gambling off of vibes, but that's the only way I know how to do it. So I'm going to pick Dom Reyes for the upset, Wheezy, but I might take the coward's way out and just watch this one as well. It should be a fun main event as long as it lasts. I hope Dom gets the win and gets another crack at it. But Ulberg might get it done. How do you see this fight playing out, man?
Yeah, I see it playing out on the feet, you know, because Carlos Ulberg just doesn't really wrestle at all. Dominick Reyes doesn't really wrestle at all. You look at Reyes, over 13 UFC fights, he spent 83% of his octagon time in the center of the cage at distance striking range. And for Carlos Ulberg, it's 94%. So this one's going to come down to volume, who's landing the bigger shots, so the fact that Ulberg is at home is going to be helpful here because he's the hometown fighter, so to speak, even though he's New Zealand and they're Australia, it doesn't really matter. The local people will be cheering for Ulberg. And I think that he throws more volume. He's more accurate. Both of these guys are not particularly defensively responsible, though. So I do worry a little bit about the durability of Reyes. He got knocked out by Ryan Spann. And I know that Spann hits hard, but that's a pretty low level.
Round one Spann, man.
Yeah, I know. Round one Spann. And, and round one Reyes is the thing, too. I mean, like he's got real power. Both of these guys do. But Ulberg is definitely the better minute winner, in my opinion. He throws more volume, and he's a lot more accurate, and he's a lot more defensively responsible. He's a little bit more willing to kind of play that point fighting game instead of looking for the big knock you out shot. And he is knocking out some people, but, not great people. You know what I'm saying? Like the Menafield one was weird. And before that, there was Peterier and, some of the other lower level guys that he was Negamarianu, But I think it's interesting that Dom's a southpaw because his last 4 opponents have been orthodox fighters. And prior to that, he fought Peterier, who's a southpaw, Kennedy and Zechiku, who's a southpaw, and Fabio Charant, who's a southpaw. And, those were not his best performances. Peterier, he's a bum. But the Negamarianu fight, not Negamarianu, the Kennedy and Zechiku fight, not one of his best performances. Obviously, it's his only UFC loss. And then the Fabio Charant fight, I don't know if it was the fact that Fabio was a southpaw that slowed down his volume, or maybe he was just afraid of getting tired because he had gotten tired in the Kennedy fight the last time out. But I think Reyes being a southpaw, there are some good things there that could potentially allow him to perform a little bit better than some of the orthodox fighters who have to worry about the jab of Ulberg setting up all the rest of his strikes. Because when it's southpaw versus orthodox, it's the power weapons which get featured more. Which one of these guys really carries more power? Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think that's Reyes. So I think that there are some things here on the Reyes side, but I also worry a little bit about the recent winning streak because Dustin Jacoby's getting up there. Anthony Smith, that guy was on his way out. And then Krylov, since he took 2 years off in the serious shoulder injury, it looks like he's coming back from a brain injury because he's fighting like a dumbass. He's going out there and not grappling pure strikers, and he's getting knocked out as a result. He didn't grapple in the Reyes fight, and he didn't grapple in the Bogdan Guskov fight. And that dude's, essentially a white belt who's getting choked out by, Ozdemir. So I do think that there's some interest. I would be interested to know who's the better grappler here. I'm not sure. I know that Reyes is probably the better wrestler. He does come from a wrestling background. But, Ulberg showed decent grappling in the Down Jung fight. And he's shown really good takedown defense at the UFC level when his opponents have tried to take him down. So, I think that this is going to play out pretty close. I do. I think Reyes is probably the side in terms of pure money line here. But I do think that Ulberg has the better minute-winning skill set while this fight is at distance striking range. And because of that, I'm probably going to lean to his side, but do I think he should be minus 250?
Yeah.
What's the line?
Yeah, it's up there, man. Minus 265 at this point.
Yeah, man, that's why, dude. They're saying he's got a 75% implied probability of winning this fight, and I don't remember the last time he looked 75% implied at distance striking range against somebody that's of Dominick Reyes' quality, because the Ozdemir fight was very close. The Jan Blachowicz
the Menafield fight. That's the fight. He looked 75%.
Yeah, exactly. He looked more than 75%. He looked like 98% in that fight. It looked like he had like he just exploded Menafield's head. That was a really weird one. He ran face first into a fist. It reminded me of practice.
If you guys haven't seen it, go look it up. It's hysterical. It's honestly hilarious.
Yeah, and it'll only take 8 seconds of your life. You could get back to doing whatever you were doing. So yeah, Reyes at plus 220. I mean, I think if you're just looking at it on a pure money line perspective in terms of this fight is going to play out on the feet, and who has Dominick Reyes, who has Carlos Ulberg look minus 260 against at distance striking range of somebody that's, of Reyes's quality. I think that you'll see that probably the value is on that Reyes side here, but long trip to Australia, man. So that's always, when you have these Perth cards, that is something that really needs to be brought into your capping. Who's making the trip here? Because that's an important part of the trends analysis of how that fight is going to play out.
This one's been announced for a while, though, and Reyes really seems like he's on a mission to get his belt back. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think he'll come correct in this spot if that's something that we're worried about. Some people on this card, maybe not so much. Reyes, I think we'll be okay with Reyes when it comes to a preparation standpoint. That is UFC Perth, everybody. Wheezy, my guy, thank you so much for joining me to break this card down. Man, I just appreciate you spending all the time with us, giving us all the free stats and information, your opinions. If you've got any sponsors, if you want to shout anybody out, my man, the floor is yours. You have at it.
Yeah, man, you can check me out on DFS by the Numbers YouTube channel every Sunday night for Stat Diggers. We go live at 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. We talk at least this long about every card. And you can find me on my YouTube channel, which is just called Uncle Wheezy. You can find me on Twitter at MMA Wheezy. And I have an Odds Shopper, $25 a month probability stats and content package, which gives you access to all of my stat sheets, all of my betting models, all of my matchup stats, my fight write-ups, access to my Discord, access to my track bets, and access to 2 shows that I don't put out for free on YouTube every week. Balls Deep Breakdowns on Wednesday nights. Probability is one of the most innovative prop betting shows on the market right now. Do that on Thursday afternoons. That's the best way to support my work. Thanks for having me on again, Clint. I don't know how many times we've done this over the years. It's been a lot, but it's always a pleasure to come here on your show and chop it up with you and your guests here, man.
It was an absolute blast, Wheezy. It always is. We love having you. Thank you very much for dedicating the time here for us. And yeah, you guys, if you need MMA numbers, Wheezy is the guy to get them from. So make sure you're supporting him. Make sure you're checking him out. Man, Wheezy, last week, I looked left and I looked right at the cross streets, and then I got run over by a plane. So that's the kind of week it was for me. This week, I'm going to try to dial it in a little bit, make some smart bets, probably go back to what I was doing, picking my spots. I was having some more success doing that. My other option is, instead of gambling on Saturday, I'll just pay a dominatrix to come over and kick me in the nuts. I'll be out about the same amount of money, and it'll be about the same feeling at the end of the night. So not sure what we're doing yet this week, guys. Make sure you give me a follow on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, everywhere podcasts are sold. Hit the like button, get subscribed. And if you guys want to help me out, if you want to continue funding the show, that's the easiest and best way you can support me. The second best way you guys can support me is to hit the links in the description below. Collect the rollout bonuses over at cloudbet.com. Make sure you sign up using my code DieHardMMA, and then check out Spectation Sports, where you can use promo code DieHard for 20% off your sub as well. Thank you guys very much for the love, for the support. Appreciate you all. Grandpa's getting out of rehab again this week, you guys. So life update, we are headed the right direction. Everything going good there. I'm probably going to have to go check on the old goat, but he's pulling through like a champ, like the monster he is. So appreciate all the good vibes, the well wishes, the thoughts, the prayers. You guys are legitimately the best. Be good, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Love you guys. Let's roll.